Hey,
Hello,
everybody.
hello. Hey there, New Mexico, or the United States, or wherever you are watching from tonight. Liberty Ladies are back.
That's right, we are. Here, Clyde.
And I'm Natalie.
I'm Rebecca.
We're your Liberty Ladies, and we unite.
Unite.
Yes.
So let me
Okay.
start into my first rant, Natalie. It's like because I have got steam to release here.
Yeah, you've had an interesting experience already, and the week is young.
I know. It can only get worse from here.
Or better, depending how you look at it.
So anyway, so today, while I was out and about, I went to a Chili's restaurant, which I've been going to literally for over a decade. The one at Central and Eubank. And it's, I mean, Mark and I've taken friends there and stuff. I bet we've gone to that Chili's restaurant probably 2 to 3 times a month for years. So we're out and about today, and I thought, we're going to stop at our favorite Chili's and have some lunch. Walk in the door. The second I'm inside the door, this rude idiot standing there at the host stand said, "You can't come in here without a mask." So, doesn't ask me why I'm not wearing a mask. Doesn't ask me why maybe I possibly can't wear a mask. Doesn't care. I got to leave like right now. Well, of course, you know me. I made a scene. There were other people standing around, and I said, I have been coming to this restaurant for years, and I've been a loyal customer. And I said, this is the rudest I have ever been treated, ever, at this restaurant. And I said, I want you to know that I will never be back, ever, at this restaurant. You have lost a loyal customer. They don't give a crap. They do not care.
They're scared. I hope you already made a complaint to their corporate office.
I reported it to the corporate office. I reported it to the DOJ, and I got a TripAdvisor and gave them a worst possible rating I could.
Good. Oh, you can also go on Facebook too.
Yeah, I might just do that too. Yeah. I am so sick, and I'm so sick of these damn stupid sheeple. I am sick of it. I'm sick of people being stupid and not educating themselves and being rude and nasty. I've been out of the state numerous times over the past year. People do not act like this outside of New Mexico. It's New Mexico people that are rude and nasty.
Yeah.
And so, no, I will never go to that restaurant ever again. And I'm going to make them very, very aware of the fact that I'm never coming back. And I told them, I am never coming back. My family will never be coming back. And you can bet that I'm going to tell every single one of my large group of friends, and they're not coming back either.
And which Chili's was this? I mean, I actually haven't gone to Chili's in, I think, over 15 years because twice I got food poisoning there. The first time I chalked it up to a fluke. The second time I'm like, let's not do Chili's anymore, which is terrible because I really love the bloomin' onion.
Well, I like their chicken nachos. It's like my favorite thing to get there, And Mark likes their baby back ribs.
Oh, yeah.
It's the one at Central and Eubank.
Central and Eubank. Got it.
Do you know what this feels like? Let me tell you what this feels like. The best way the analogy I can make to this. This feels like I have been betrayed by one of my best friends. That's what this feels like. Because I had a real connection with that restaurant. It was like my go-to place. It's like the place that when we couldn't think of anywhere else to go, hey, let's just go to Chili's. We always loved it.
Right. It's like your stand-in. This is
it is. It's like it's always good. It's like, and I'll never be back.
Well, John and I used to go to Village Inn for our anniversary. Long story. Maybe I'll share it one of these days. Maybe not. But we always used to go to a Village Inn, and then it closed down. It was the one over on Central near Manal. No, Carlisle, I think. But yeah, no, that was always one of the places for us. And then of course we were heartbroken when Wu Flu started. One of the first chains that went out of business in the first few months was the soup plantation. The big buffet. What did it used to be called? Not tomatoes, sweet tomatoes. My kiddos are still heartbroken because we used to just love as a family going to Sweet Tomatoes.
I like sweet tomatoes too.
Yeah, we knew the management there. They knew us. I mean, how many people come in the door with 5 kids?
Yeah.
And coupons. Always had coupons every single time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no more soup plantation. No more this. No more that.
So let me list off the places that I can think off the top of my head I will never do business with again.
All right.
Okay? Costco, gone. Target, never again. Never.
I haven't done Target since they started letting men in the women's restrooms.
Yeah. And I got something to talk about along those lines too, that I won't talk about on the radio, but I'll talk about it here.
Okay.
Now I'm not going to that Chili's ever again.
Yep.
What's another place? I know there's another place. There was one other place at least. Oh man, I need to write these things down.
Sprouts. I have not been in Sprouts.
Yeah.
Since they've, I gave them a chance several times, and they terrorized me and my children.
Yeah.
They kept doing it. So yeah, no more Sprouts for us. I get all of my natural and whole stuff at Moses Country Store. Fine, thank you.
Oh, I know that Dr. Summers sells his product there.
He sure does. That's where we get our memory revitalizer. It's wonderful.
I have an appointment with Dr. Summers for Thursday.
Good. Great.
We passed him on the way out last Saturday. He seems to think he might have a solution to my problem.
Really?
Yeah, because he even asked me specifically. I told him, I said, I'm shooting my hand. And he said, what do you notice the most? Like when you're writing, maybe? I said, yeah, exactly. And he let off. And it's like, so anyway, so I got an appointment with him on Thursday. So I'm looking forward
to
see if he can help me out with something.
Great. Well, the whole healthcare front is, gosh, we have changed dentists twice because of all this nonsense.
I can
also the fact that unfortunately your dentist doesn't take our insurance, but also the fact that we've been trying to get certain things out of my husband's mouth. You know how hard it is to get someone to remove a root canal?
Really?
We're going to end up having to pay out of pocket for it because we have to go to a biological dentist. And it's funny, we've tried for 3 years to get the people in the dentists
to be done with it.
I guess not. Once they put a root canal in, man, they really don't want to pull it out. Even when the professionals who prepped the root canal and then the dentist who did the root canal all admit, it could be infected and we wouldn't be able to see it. They've admitted that. And and they're like, yeah, even with the shape of some of your other teeth, it wouldn't be surprising if it is infected.
Yeah.
We'll give you antibiotics. Well, no, obviously antibiotics aren't working because he's been on them again and again. But we went to a biological dentist and oh my gosh, it was wonderful. Like they actually listened to us and were like, oh yeah, this stuff could be causing his pain and this stuff and this stuff. And yeah, we can get it out of there. And oh yeah, here's copies of his chart so you can see exactly which teeth and what are the issues and which meridians in the body. And I'm like, I've never had a dentist give me so much information.
Huh, wow.
So much.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's Natural Dental Services in Albuquerque.
Okay.
So hopefully that's good news on that front. But yeah, so one of the times we changed a dentist for insurance and the other time was because of the mask nonsense. Yeah. Like, nope, not going to do it. And frankly, you dental professionals know better.
Yeah.
We've been doing PPE correctly for decades and decades and decades. And you want someone to come in the door with fabric over their face. I don't give dentists a pass on this mask BS because they know better. I would say that almost no one is better at following OSHA PPE guidelines than dentists and their staff. So why are you going to require people to wear these fake masks that do nothing because they're fabric and the holes in the fabric are humongous compared to viruses and bacteria?
Well,
and OSHA doesn't even consider
no,
fabric masks to be actual bona fide PPE. And yet
it's
you're going to
not.
require that?
Yeah. Well,
No.
my dentist
No, no, no.
doesn't push that nonsense either.
Good. Good.
So,
Yeah.
and that's the reason I picked him. I started calling in the directory, one dentist after the other, and I asked them right off the
Yep.
bat, are you going to make me wear a mask if I come there? And if they said yes, oh, well, thank you very much. I'll be calling somebody else.
Yep.
And I keep calling until I reach this one. And by the way, I can highly recommend this dentist. He's amazing. Look at my teeth. They're all done now. It's like totally restored. I'm so excited. Yeah, it took like 4 appointments, but we got it all done. And
Awesome.
so he's amazing. He's like a really nice guy. His name's Dan. I just call him Dr. Dan. And ABQ Gentle in Albuquerque. And I can highly recommend them. And they're not going to push any nonsense on you.
Good.
And if you don't have any insurance and you need to figure out some creative way to pay, he will work with you.
Oh, that's good to know.
So I highly recommend him.
Yes, awesome.
So, I wanted to talk about our situation last Saturday at the radio station with the phones.
Oh, yeah. We still don't know exactly what was up with that, but that was interesting.
Yeah. Well, like Greg Schmetti was supposed to call in, and I'm pretty certain that he probably tried to call in.
Yeah.
He probably had the same problem. Now, my one friend from Carlsbad that was supposed to call in at 3, which she tried over and over and over again.
Wow.
She had a phone on Verizon. She was getting a Verizon message when she tried to call the number saying that the call could not be completed. And it wasn't just her phone, because her boyfriend, Steve, which you met Steve, okay, he tried on his phone. Same result.
Oh, really?
You said you tried to call in to Dr. Summers before our show.
We sure did.
Yes. And let me tell you something. A couple of years ago, when the other station used to have conservative talk during the day, I was calling quite often on that station. And I remember there was one time I was trying to call in a couple times because they were talking about something I wanted to comment on. And I was getting a problem with, I would call and I'd get a rapid busy signal over and over and over. And I tried.
Yeah.
Okay. So isn't this funny? I could call anybody else except that radio station.
Yeah, so, it was a really weird message we were getting to. We're wondering if maybe all the people who couldn't call in, and if anyone out there listening tonight had tried to call in to us on Saturday, we're talking about some funny business going on with the phone lines. We suspect that it may have to do with the cell phones or the cell services, because for the most part, it seems like people who are trying to call in on a cell phone couldn't get in. And most of our regular listeners that did call in, I think most of them call in from landlines. Hey, David, good to see you.
Right.
So yeah, we're not too sure what exactly was going on there, but it was suspicious.
Yeah. After I couldn't get in at that one radio station, I called T-Mobile because that's who my service is through. I called T-Mobile customer support and I said, okay, I can call anybody except this one phone number. And when I try to call this one phone number, it won't go through. Yeah. Either it wouldn't ring at all, or it would give me a weird busy, or it would time out and give me a weird busy signal. So here's the weird thing. Okay, and it gets better after this too. They said, well, let me take a look at your service. And it took them a couple minutes. They said, I'm going to send out a reset signal to your phone, and then you can restart it and try it again. Well, they sent out a reset signal. I restarted my phone, and don't you know, I was able to call that number then. Okay, so it doesn't end there. A couple of weeks later, I had the same problem again. And so I called T-Mobile again. Guess what? They reset my phone. It started working again. I think that it's possible that the cell phone companies can blacklist a number and prevent you from calling it. Just a guess.
It's possible. It's possible that, and then I know Eddie's going to look into that. I mean, and
Did you tell Eddie? I tried to call him this morning. He couldn't make time for me because I was going to tell him what happened to me before, and I was going to tell him what happened to us because we didn't really give him details on Saturday.
Yeah.
So,
well, John kind of did. John did, and we had told him actually when we got in there that we couldn't get a hold of call into Dr. Summers' show. So and he's run the whole gamut of all kinds of ways that people have tried to silence him. So
yeah.
I'm pretty sure he'll get to the bottom of it if he can. But yeah, we'd encourage everyone, keep trying to call into us, and then text, if you have our numbers, text us or email us and let us know when you can't call into the station. That's the 505-266-1600 when we're at the KIVA. That's the line you call into. If you can't get a hold of us, email us at the Liberty Ladies Unite at protonmail.com. Should be scrolling across the screen right down there.
Yeah.
Email us and let us know. Let us know if you're calling from a landline. Let us know if you're calling from a cell phone. This will help us to troubleshoot the issue to see if maybe someone is fooling around with the phone lines and the phone systems. Cellular wise, this is why I think it's cellular. The cell phone companies and cell towers more specifically can fool around with delivery. They're a middleman, and they can stop the transmission of a call.
They have a huge amount of control over those routers.
Yeah. They can stop the call from being completed. And by the way, it doesn't even just have to be your cell company. John and I are on Pure Talk. Pure Talk doesn't mess around. They're a free speech platform company, along with Patriot Mobile. Those are the two really best options. If y'all haven't switched already to either Pure Talk or Patriot Mobile, oh my gosh, you can save so much money. They're really competitive and they have great data plans. But they all use the same cell towers. So T-Mobile or Verizon can easily block a number, and they can also be, based on who has more usage through a specific cell tower, they can block that number from other data carriers as well, not just their own. And when you call in from a landline, though, on the flip side, landline is what's the word for it? Not manual. Like, is it analog?
Analog,
I think is the word. It's landline is analog, unless you are physically on location where the call originated, or where their call is, or the call's destination, the number it's going to. Unless you are physically on location to interrupt either at the beginning of the call or at the end for the transmission, you can't stop it.
Yeah, on a landline, your call is analog all the way to the LEC. Okay, that's the local exchange carrier. So that is a telephone facility that is within several miles of your home. They have them every several miles or so. So from your house, from your phone to the LEC, it's analog. Now it ends up getting digitized at that point where it gets sent on. Yeah. But it's definitely.
But it's really super hard. And my understanding from someone who used to work in telephone, there's a specific name for it, but telecommunications, that's it. They said it's super hard at that LEC point when it does become digitized. It's super hard to block any specific number. You would have to go through an enormous amount of code. Specifically, just because the LEC, as you called it, is not set up the way the cellular companies are set up. There's a reason why cell phone companies can track everything, pretty much everything and all the data, because they were set up that way. Well, analog landlines were not set up that way to track things. They're just set up to transmit. So
right, because the difference with cell phones is cell phones, in order for them to function, the system has to know where you are at all times. It has to, because that phone is emitting a pilot signal, which the towers keep track of. They know where the phone is all the time, because that's the only way that if you receive a call, that it knows which router to send the call through to get the call to your phone.
As opposed to a landline, which has one fixed location. It is not moving. It's grounded. It's hardwired in. That's why it's called a landline. I mean, for some people, it's literally buried right there out in their dirt. It's not going anywhere. In other words, when you transmit to a landline, it's a dependable line. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So analog gets through, and LECs are not set up to keep track of and find numbers. They're just set up to translate it into a data signal and shoot it off to whatever number it was given for a destination. And because of that, again, it doesn't mean that things aren't traceable and there can't be sabotage, but it's a heck of a lot harder because the system is simply not set up to track the way that cell phone companies are. So, you know, there's a little techie geek stuff on that side. But all of this to say, we think there's some funny business going on, and that the KIVA is being
targeted,
not exactly suppressed. Yeah, we think they're being suppressed in a different way. That the phone lines, that your voices, you guys calling in on the radio, are being suppressed. So, you know, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. So is there anything you wanted to talk about in particular? Because I definitely have other things to talk about.
Well, let's just go ahead with what you've got, because I always tend to just kind of roll things in as they seem apropos.
Okay. So I watched the Trump speech on the CPAC convention.
Oh, yeah.
It was really, really good. You know, Mark and I both watched it, and one thing that we noticed right off is that Trump is energized. He doesn't look the least bit worn down or tired. He is as energetic and upbeat as he was when he first started running for president 4 years ago.
Yes, yes.
And he called out all the rhinos by name. And if anybody doubted what his plan is going forward, we have a better idea now. He's definitely going to be fighting to get those rhinos primaried.
Yeah, and none of this third party shenanigans, which you know, I know a lot of people are like, but Tea Party was successful. I'm like, do you see a third party? Is there a third party called Tea Party right now? Yeah, no. The Tea Party eventually figured out that what they needed to do was take back the Republican Party, and to some extent, especially under Obama, they did, because Obama was so horrible, and that's why we got a lot of good people into Congress. The way we did it at that time via the Freedom Movement and the Tea Party, or Freedom Party. But yeah, no, I know we've been talking about it. Bongino's been talking about it, and Buck Sexton and several others. Like, no, there's not going to be a third party. Is it ideal? Yeah, a two-party system has its pitfalls, namely that it's awfully easy to turn into a one-party state if you can successfully sabotage the other party.
Yeah.
Third party would be great, but unfortunately with the pass-fail system of voting and elections that we have in this country, it's not terribly likely that we're ever going to get a successful third party. No. Doesn't mean we don't have independent voters, doesn't mean we have other parties. Actually, we've got more than a third party. There's like 6 or 7 different independent type groups over the past 50, 60 years or more.
Fraction. You know, they get like 1%, 2%. The problem with a successful third party is to have a successful third party, you would have to be able to pull voters from both the Republican and the Democrat Party.
Yes.
You also notice, I'm not referring to them as the Democratic Party. They're not the Democratic Party. They're the
haven't done that in a while. It's like, no, I refuse to call them Democratic. They're not Democratic.
Drives me freaking crazy when people call them the Democratic Party. Okay,
I usually call them Democrats, but yeah.
Democrats, that's good. Or Democrats or something like that.
There you go.
But Commie-crats. Well, Mark just calls them Commie-crats. He's always called them Commie-crats. But, you know, here's the thing that annoys me the most, and I think this is why they try to make people think that they're the Democratic Party because, okay, they're bringing in all, you notice how they're trying to bring in all these illegal aliens. Okay, yes, they're illegal because they're crossing the border without being invited. They're starting off their time in the United States as a criminal. They are illegal. They don't belong here. They should be thrown across they should be thrown across the border immediately. It's like, get the hell out of here and don't ever come back. That's what should happen. Okay, but here's what they're doing. I think the Democrats are playing on the ignorance of these illegals, which don't know anything about the United States, because, hey, they don't want to know about the United States. They just want to sneak in. They don't want to do it the right way. They don't want to learn about our laws like legal aliens do, which we all know. Okay, so what they do is they play on the ignorance of these illegal aliens, and the illegal aliens, they think Democratic. Wow, that sounds good. It's like, that means it's democratic, and we get to vote. And unlike what they came from, which was communism or socialism or whatever it was, so they're thinking democratic. Oh, that sounds nice. And it's like, Republican is that doesn't sound good. I'm almost thinking the Republican Party needs to change their name.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting with a lot of the shenanigans that have gone on between the parties is Bongino's fond of saying this, and he got it from someone else. I think it was Thomas Sowell, or might have been another guy. Yeah, commie-crats is what David uses. That's
Mark
awesome,
likes that
David.
one too.
Love it. Commie-crats. Yeah. Especially when you want to distinguish. That's useful. Language is good when you want to distinguish between two things. There are good Democrats. There are good moderate Democrats who still believe in the democratic process as voters out there. The problem is that most of the politicians are not traditional Democrats. They're commie-crats.
They're commie-crats.
Totally using that. Yeah, it's like, no. I'm not talking about all Democrats. I'm just talking about the commie-crats, which is most of their politicians. But yeah, most of the Democrats are Democrats. All of the Democrats are Democrats. A lot of Republicans aren't really Republicans. They're actually Democrats. But you can't say the same thing of the Democrats. There are no Democrats who are actually Republican. Well, and here's how you know. When a Democrat finally decides they don't like where their party's heading anymore, they switch to Republican. And to some extent, it's like, well, can we trust you? Can we not? We'll see. Actions speak louder than words. But generally, when the Democrats get disillusioned with their party, they leave. And they leave like that. Hence, hashtag walk away.
Walk away.
Dave Rubin's Why I Left the Left. Candace Owens with her red pill thing. And, Blexit, black exit from the Democrat Party, all this kind of stuff. When people get disillusioned with the Democrat Party, they just leave. However, with Republicans, they sabotage. Well, what's interesting is, if we get disillusioned with the Republican Party, they usually become like independents or some Tea Party, something like that. However, if they're Republicans, but they're really Democrats at heart, they just sabotage the party, like Paul Ryan, Cocaine Mitch, all those people. It's like, you guys say, Cocaine Mitch with Trump will never be the leader of this party.
Did you hear?
Right. Not what 94.
Did you hear the CPAC convention? Mitch got booed.
Yeah. Oh, he did.
When Trump mentioned Mitch, he got booed.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. That. Well, here's what I found interesting. On the low end of the polls, if you want to think conservatively, 90% of Republicans consider Trump the leader of the Republican Party. And on the high end of the polls, 97% think Trump's the leader of the Republican Party.
Yeah.
No, and here's the other thing, and I'm so glad that President Trump, I said it, president. He's still my president. Yes, you all had 4 years to say not my president. I get to still call him my president.
Hey, we get 4 years to do that too.
Abso-freaking-lutely. Joe Schmo ain't my president. President Trump is still my president. But I was so glad that he went over a lot of the idiosyncrasies that were in the election of 2020, because he's right. In history, if a candidate got 75% or more of their party's vote in the primary, they went on to win the election every single time. Well, he got over 90%, 92 or 94, depending on which numbers you look at, of the vote. Yeah, Romney and McCain need to just leave. It's like, leave Romney, leave Mittens. We know, we know, so no. But yeah, it's when you have a president that had such landslide support, he should have won. We believe that he did.
Yeah.
He should have won by all the numbers,
Totally.
especially considering that Joe Schmo did not have landslide support in the states that he actually won that were not contested. California should have backed, him up. If Joe Schmo got more votes than either Hillary or Obama in Michigan and Georgia and Nevada and Pennsylvania, all these battleground, hotly contested states, doesn't it stand to reason he should have also won this popularity contest in California and Oregon and New Hampshire and
Well,
and he didn't.
Not only that, but it's like
he underperformed.
Yeah. Did we really have tens of millions of more voters in this election than we had in the last one?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
So I do actually want to share something. Oops, wrong one. I want to share a screen here. I've been following along with Louder with Crowder for a while now. And it's interesting. He's been trying to keep from getting booted off of YouTube. Don't blame him. It's still one of their biggest platforms, and YouTube will boot them off, not for talking about elections. You can talk about elections. You can talk about fraud. You can talk about election fraud. But don't you dare, and this is Rebecca, I'm convinced, and YouTube still hasn't gotten back to me why they took last week's show down from YouTube, but I'm convinced that it's because we talked about election fraud. Don't you dare insinuate or claim that the 2020 election was affected, that the outcome of that election was affected by voter fraud or mass voter fraud. That is what they will take you down for. Now they told me it was about a medical claim.
Medical claim.
Okay, well, we talked about Wu flu and other stuff about that. We talked about, did over 1,500 cases and tests that were supposed to be COVID, got retested in a batch test and for a research group, and none of them tested positive for COVID.
Well, and not only that, but I'm still seeing stuff out there where the CDC as of even today, has never isolated the Wu flu virus.
Yeah. No, CDC has not. Other people have not. There's been a couple places that claimed to, but they haven't produced the goods. They haven't produced the receipts. It's like, oh, really now? What's up with that?
Well,
That's
yes,
really interesting.
And I heard a doctor the other day was talking about at his practice that in the peak of flu season, he said that he has not had a single flu patient, not a single one. And I was listening to Diamond and Silk just a little bit ago before we started, and they were ranting. Boy, they were really on their soapbox today, and they were talking about that. It's like, well, did COVID come along and just now we have no other cold? We don't have colds anymore. We don't have flus anymore. Everything's gone. Everything has been replaced by the new flu. Doesn't anybody find that a little bit suspicious?
Yeah. So the interesting thing, there's a few theories about that. Some are like, oh, well, we've masked so well that we got rid of the flu. I'm like, really? That's funny, because apparently all that masking and physical distancing didn't get rid of COVID. So masks worked for one virus, but they didn't work for another virus.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, don't even go there.
Yeah.
That is shaky ground indeed. So Louder with Crowder, they've been very, very careful not to talk about aspects of voter fraud that they cannot specifically and physically prove. And that gets very interesting because they've got a lawyer, half Asian lawyer, as he calls him. And so the lawyer will look at YouTube's guidelines and go, okay, so based on your guidelines, if we do this, 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 and this, and we physically go to a place, we don't just Google map it. We don't just, look in the voter rolls and compare it to current addresses. We go to those addresses specifically. And they have, they do the whole thing where they take a video, they show the local paper of that city with today's date on it to establish what date it is, so that beyond a shadow of a doubt, that is today's date. And then they go and they try to find, and what they did is they went through the voter rolls in a few places in Michigan and then Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada. They went through all these voter rolls, and they, just on the offhand going through Google Maps went, that's interesting. Can't find that address. That address doesn't exist. Looks like this address is an empty lot. This one ends at a warehouse. And then they sent people that they had in some friends, some associates in various states to those addresses to actually videotape. I mean, one of them was literally the side of the highway. And Crowder has been getting demonetized over this, even though it's proof. And it's according to YouTube's own guidelines. So I think their lawyer's giving him hell because, can't do that, can't do that. So one of the interesting things, though, that they found is they got fact-checked. They got fact-checked and said, one of these addresses that you went to wasn't that voter's listed address on their registration. Oh, really? That's interesting. Okay, maybe we made a mistake. So they went back and they looked at this and they conferred with some of their people who had gone through voter registration. And he says one of the people that had gone through registration says, well, you know what? Wait a minute. She's like, I swear this one was, I swear I gave you the correct information. So they ended up pulling the information that they had downloaded from voter registration and comparing it to the current site. And lo and behold, someone changed addresses in real time on a Tuesday night, they discovered, because they went probably to something like the Wayback Machine where you can get snapshots of websites.
Yeah.
Historically speaking. So yeah, so they found out like this one, and this is interesting. This person here, Christina Joy Ruya Gupana, she used to work for the Clintons. By the way, fun fact, or maybe scary fact, no one can find her right now.
Well,
and the reason they centered on this one
history of people just having unfortunate accidents.
Did she get Seth riched? Who knows?
I don't know.
Yeah, so it's like Gupana didn't kill herself either. Hashtag.
No.
And Crowder remembered this one because she had been talked about a few years back, and they realized not only are we looking at a fake address. So here's the thing: is they said that the direction Bonneville Avenue was originally, they looked at West Bonneville Avenue is what it was listed as, and they got fact checks saying, oh no, Crowder got the address wrong. It's actually East Bonneville Avenue. Okay, well, they go to the website, and yeah, sure enough, it says East Bonneville Avenue. But here's the thing: February 23rd, it was on top here, West Bonneville Avenue. February 24th, now it's East Bonneville Avenue. Now, here's the funny thing. In this county, they state on their own website that their voter rolls are only updated on Mondays. Someone went in on a Tuesday and uploaded not just hers, dozens of others. In some case, changed them to entirely different street names. and in some places changed a number, etc. And what Crowder's team has been surmising is potentially the idea was to be able to take Crowder to court and say in front of a judge, oh, see, they got it wrong. And here's the proof. It's online as this address. Well, now Crowder's team is like, well, screw you guys. We got proof that you all changed it. And it would be one thing. It's still tampering with evidence, but it would be one thing to change it from an incorrect to a correct address. That would be a correction.
Mm-hmm.
No, because they're actually still changing them to incorrect addresses. So the changes are not corrections, they're incorrections. It's crazy. If anyone gets to listen to his mug club from today, yeah, he even acknowledges here, look, we made some mistakes. We've accidentally copied and pasted wrong name for a few, but it was still a fake address. Some of our people photographed an empty lot and then turned around 180 degrees, and they got a little turned around, etc. And so they've been very careful to say exactly what their mistakes are, but then to go back and go, okay, these here were not our mistakes. Empty lot. And there was a video picture here. There was mistake lot, and then down here they show several buildings on a block where the address was switched to those buildings. And they had someone go in to every single potential building and ask, hey, does so-and-so and so-and-so live here? On video and on camera, and actually verify. So as Crowder says, could we talk about Dominion? Sure. And they have a lot of people asking them to talk about Dominion. He's like, but here's the thing. We ourselves cannot verify what happened with Dominion. In spite of the fact, they said, oh, no, these things don't ever go online, regardless of the fact that there's a USB port and there's instructions for going online. But as he points out, in all fairness, we don't know if someone pushed the button that said, yes, I want to connect to the internet. He's like, okay, so there's one thing that we can't verify, so we don't talk about that. But they do talk about the stuff that they can physically verify. And here's the thing, is they keep pointing out, they're a comedy sketch. They're like rough and tumble late night comedy, which somehow also now has a morning show, which is a really fun way to wake up, by the way, listening to them. But they're not supposed to be doing this. They're like, hey, New York Times, CNN, why aren't you guys sending your investigative journalists out to do this? Why aren't the counties who are supposed to make sure that the voter rolls are purged of any wrong addresses, why didn't they do their due diligence? Instead, you got a comedy sketch group that's just like, oh, we know someone in Las Vegas. Let's call him up, send him over with his phone and a newspaper, and try to look up the addresses.
Well, Natalie, doesn't that make sense? It's like, doesn't it make sense that because we have these so-called late night comics now that are trying to do politics?
That's true.
So why don't we have comics that are now doing investigative reporting?
Right, Don Lemon. Well, it also made me think maybe we should start looking at our own voter rolls here in New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we could find some interesting things here in New Mexico, Nuevo Mexico, if we take a look at our own voter rolls. So, yeah, we might want to look into that. If anyone's interested in helping us with that and jumping on board. Because, it's easy at first to look on Google Maps and go, oh, hey. And this was, by the way, one of the things. If you watch his mug club from this morning, Louder with Crowder, I highly recommend it. They're like, okay, so this says it's a 212 this and this street. Well, and they turn with the camera. There's 210. There's 220. Turn around other side of the street. There's 221. And then there's 211. There is no 212. And we know this from some of our own neighborhoods here. Yeah, they depending on the size of the lot, they'll skip numbers or jump numbers. And then he'd go up and knock on all the neighbors' doors and be like, hey, do you know Gupana 212 this and this street? And the guy's like, no, there is no such number. And I've never heard. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just trying to confirm some of the addresses on voter rolls, and people are like, oh, okay, that's interesting. They don't think anything of it. It's like, but this has happened on a wide scale, and again, this is a small part, probably, of what went on in the entire election of 2020. But it's important. It's important that any fraud be kept to an absolute minimum. I don't think you can point to a single election in history and say there was no fraud, because there's always something, intentional or unintentional. But for the media to disingenuously say, nope, no fraud, 2020 was A-OK, it was above board, when every single person knows that if Trump had actually succeeded in winning, they'd have done the same thing that they had for the past 4 years, which was scream, fraud, Russian collusion, you rigged the election. Yeah, they absolutely would have screamed bloody murder.
Hypocrisy. It's like, but that's what the Democrats always do. It's hypocrisy, right. Hypocrisy with them all the time. It's like they're always screaming and yelling about something. By the way, newsflash, I'm watching Fox News right now. We're on. The parade of women that are coming out against Como has increased by yet another.
Oh, yes. Yeah, Jaybird told me today, he's like, oh, guess what? Cuomo had to retain a criminal lawyer.
Yeah, now he's got 3 women that are after him. Now, don't you think that if Como was a Republican, they would already have him ousted out of office? They'd have him
resign. Do the right thing, Cuomo.
That's
resign.
Right, because they have to be believed. Okay, so they have to be believed. So therefore, you are guilty until proven innocent. So throw you in jail, and until you can prove yourself innocent, you're going to stay there, right?
Precisely.
I mean, they need to follow their own rules, right?
Yeah, but does that happen? Yeah, no, it doesn't happen. Doesn't happen at all. No. So, there's that. There's rules, and then there's hypocrisy, and we know which side the Democrats, the commie craps. Yeah. Thanks, David. Fall on. Every single
let's call them commie craps. Let's call them commie craps. Let's combine the 2 terms. I like it. Oh
yeah, and Fauci backtracked. Remember last week he'd said that, well, you may not be able to hug your family members. So maybe summer or winter of this year, something like that. Well, now you can hug your family members, but only if you're vaxxed. F you, Fauci. I hug who I want to hug.
That's right. How about people
especially if they want to hug me?
Right. How about people just taking control of their lives again? Okay, and say, screw you. I'm just going to live my life how I want. I actually heard something today where they're actually saying that now they're pushing. They're yet moving the goalpost again. They just keep moving it out. Now they're talking about, well, we might not be able to get back to normal until next year. Okay. And then we're talking about, okay, like they're talking to the Fouts. And it's like, hey, you think we can get back to normal after you have a vaccine? Well, I don't know,
I don't know about that.
So you have the vaccine. You've been locked down for a year. Your business has maybe been destroyed, and yet after you get the vaccine, then no, you still got to wear a mask. You still got to social distance, and you go to the bar, and you can't go to church, and you can't visit your family. What the hell?
Right. Yeah. So, well, hey, here's a fun piece I found today. Governor Kristi Noem, Superwoman Governor of the Year.
Yeah.
Slapped him down at CPAC, saying Fauci is wrong a lot.
Oh, wrong a lot. Yeah. Now, personally, I would have said Fauci's a quack. That's what I've been saying for a month.
No, she was very kind.
She
was. Said, in her state, she provides all the information to her people, and then she trusts them to make the best decisions for themselves on how to prevent the spread.
Yeah.
And in turn for the families in their communities. Oh, gee, what a concept. Erring on the side of freedom and independence. And we talked about this on Saturday, that we the people, being the first thing mentioned in the preamble, means that the rights of the people are supreme over the power or the supremacy of the state, even over the federal government.
Yeah.
So, oh, gee, a governor who recognizes that her people's freedom is sovereign, even over the state's sovereign rights. Gee, what a concept. But yeah, she says they never focused on case numbers. They
Why
kept their own
would you?
hospital capacity.
Yeah.
Fauci actually told her that she'd have 10,000 COVID patients in the
10,000.
hospital on
And
their
she had
worst day.
600.
She said, on our worst day, we had little over 600.
Yep.
I don't know if you agree, but Fauci is wrong a lot. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
that's so kind. That's too kind, Christy. But yes, you.
He was really holding back on that one.
And it's like, yeah. Yeah, Fauci's saying there's no reason to be walking around with a mask. Oh, wear a mask. Wear two, wear three. Oh, heck, wear the whole box at this point.
Or like I said before, just break out the damn saran wrap and just totally get a total airtight seal.
Precisely.
In or out. Then all your problems will be solved.
Yeah, and you'll be dead. No more problems.
Exactly.
Nothing else to worry about here, folks. Not at all. Don't
Or if
worry.
you can't find the saran wrap, you can use a plastic bag and a rubber band. That might work
Yeah,
too.
there you go. Put the bag over your head. Nothing will get through that.
Yeah,
It's airtight.
yeah. There we go.
Yes, yeah. No, don't actually do that, people. Ugh,
No,
yeah.
no.
No,
We want to do a
hello,
disclaimer,
sarcasm, extreme sarcasm.
Yeah, disclaimer, don't really do that. There's people that probably would.
Yeah, there are, unfortunately. Well, kind of like some people, unfortunately, died in Texas because they ran their cars in a closed garage to heat their house. Yeah.
Don't you know you shouldn't do that? How many years have they been talking about people dying like that?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, goodness. But yeah, the whole thing is hilarious.
Talking about Texas. Okay, let me show you a little something on Texas.
Oh, yes, Texas. I got some interesting things on this one.
Okay, so I want to show you this thing here. Let's see here.
Oh, is that TikTok video?
No. Do you have that? I can't find it.
I have it. It's not great quality though, but I did look up HAARP, and I've actually talked to some people about HAARP years ago. So
yeah.
I have a slightly different take on it, but it's related, and it's still a theory. And at this point, if we're talking in theories, we're going to say it's a theory.
Yeah.
But there's several ways in which Texas may very well have been sabotaged. And one of the things that this young guy, looks like he's maybe in his 20s, brought up on this TikTok video is, remember that Texas wanted to secede. In fact, I think you and I brought this up a few weeks ago. Texas had already brought up a bill that would not make them secede from the Union, but would allow their citizens to vote on seceding. In other words, they weren't just going to try to pass something through Congress to secede from the Union. They actually wanted their citizens to have the right to vote on seceding from the United States. Well, interesting how after that, this big storm comes through. Texas has the biggest ice storm that they've had in, I think it's living memory.
Yeah, ever.
And a huge portion of their power grid goes down.
Yeah.
Coincidence? You know what? Some people started thinking maybe this isn't coincidence. So I had actually a friend of mine. Her husband looks into a lot of different things, but one of the things that he looked into was that the Chinese have actually provided, meaning we paid for it, bent over backwards and took it up the woo-hoo. And the Chinese has an enormous amount of Chinese manufactured and software installed in our power grid in the United States. And Texas is no exception, especially when it comes to the supposed green energy, renewable energy side of things, because China actually provides an awful lot of infrastructure equipment for renewable energy sources, such as wind or solar. So one of the things that this guy was saying was, remember that China made a bunch of huge transformers. In fact, they boasted, I think, was it 2012 or 2015? They boasted about it even, and said, "Oh yeah, we have all these all these things in the energy grid." I think that even 10% of New York's energy grid is dependent on China. Okay, yeah, if that isn't concerning to you, then I don't know what is. But in Texas, they did have a large part of their transformers come from China, and of course China runs the software that runs the transformers, or they made the software. Thus, China probably has a back door.
Entirely possible.
Now, here's the thing: Trump banned buying any more of those transformers or equipment from China. He also apparently closed some of the software back doors during his time as president. Well, then guess what Biden opens up the first week that he's back? Remember that executive order about, basically letting China back into our energy economy and buying from them again? Well, it wasn't just buying their stuff. It was also those software back doors that apparently got opened up again. So if, and here's where we're theorizing, if China was able to utilize those software backdoors into the stuff that they manufactured, it is not entirely impossible that they could have caused the breakdown and power interruption in many of those plants.
Well,
that's not to say that it was all of them.
Well, here's the thing, Natalie.
Ice storms can still wreak havoc with those wind turbines as well as others.
If that is what happened, we will never know. We will never know the truth. They'll never tell us.
No.
So you're right. All we can do is speculate.
Yeah, all we can do is speculate on it. But it's a very interesting theory.
And it's very plausible.
Now this goes hand in hand with another one. Do you remember the HARP program?
High Altitude Research Project.
High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. It was initiated for ionospheric research. It's jointly funded by the U.S. Air Force, the U.S. Navy, Alaska Fairbanks, and I think something Defense Research Project.
There has been theories about that for years that it was going to be used for weather manipulation.
Well, I know some people who are kind of have a little bit of an in on the weather manipulation thing, and I remember talking with them about HARP as well as magnets, or using magnetism, the Earth's own magnetism.
Mm-hmm.
So the opinion of some of these people is that actually the research, which mostly is done, not just America, but by the Russians, on using the Earth's own magnetism to manipulate weather, some of them are of the opinion that that's actually more effective on a wider scale. But the thing with HARP is kind of like contrails and putting stuff into the atmosphere from contrails. People are like, oh, they're putting chemicals out there in the atmosphere so they can cause clouds. That really only works if there's already moisture. And the thing about contrails, you're talking thousands and thousands of feet up in the air, is they can end up not falling. They don't fall straight down. If anyone knows anything about cloud patterns and weather, just because it's directly above one point up in the air, even if it's just a few hundred feet up in the air, doesn't mean it's going to fall on and affect that one point.
Well, and as a pilot, let me tell you something about altitude. Okay, as you go up in altitude, the air currents can literally be going the opposite direction at different altitudes. We see that at like Balloon Fiesta. Who knows if we'll ever see another Balloon Fiesta? But at Balloon Fiesta, you'll see the thing they call the box. Okay, where they're able to go up to a certain altitude and they'll go one way, and they go to another altitude, they come the other way. Not only that, but when I had my plane and I did a lot of flying, I can tell you that you get up to altitude, the air current can increase significantly. I mean, even at the lower altitudes that my small plane was capable of traveling, I encountered one day a 50-mile-per-hour tailwind. And airliners, when they're up around 20, 30,000 feet, they can see air currents over 100 miles per hour. 100 to 200. I mean, that's why sometimes if you're taking an airline flight somewhere and it has a projected arrival time, how sometimes the pilot is able to get you there quite a bit
sooner
because they're able to.
They have a tailwind, or they're in on a jet stream that is not visible from the ground and is thousands and thousands of feet above the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So yeah, the contrail thing, I know that there's a lot of misinformation and theories and sometimes conspiracy theories about them. However, that doesn't mean that there isn't a certain amount of grain of truth. We do know sometimes that certain crystals put into the atmosphere will draw water to them and cause condensation.
Has to do with charged particles.
Yeah. So here's the thing from talking to a few different scientists, and this is throughout the decades. Like, I've been aware of this stuff since I was a kid, actually, and talking to people about them. And so for a long time, I just thought everyone knew about this, and it kind of took that knowledge for granted. But HARP, contrails, things that supposedly are accused of being weather manipulation or having those properties, it's not that they're absolute manipulators, meaning you can't create a storm out of nothing. However, it is surmised that things like HARP or technologies discovered by HARP can be used to exacerbate existing conditions. Meaning, if you already know that a weather front is coming through, a large amount of moisture, a lot of low versus high pressures, heat wave coming up against a cold wave, things like that, things where the situation is ripe for weather elements to develop. Contrails, charged particles, other technologies may be discovered by HARP, also including the research into magnetic influence of weather patterns. All of those can be used to exacerbate conditions. In other words, you can take a rainstorm and potentially turn it into a worse rainstorm. Maybe sleet, maybe hail. Maybe you can take conditions that were going to be cold as it is and potentially exacerbate them, so now they're icy. So it is, again, it's a theory, and we are theorizing, but I'm telling you, the technology does exist. It's been researched for a very, very long time. And for many reasons too, not just nefarious ones or warfare, but scientists have been trying to figure out, okay, how can we end drought conditions so that the breadbasket belt of America doesn't suffer during a drought? How can we maybe coax more moisture to gather in the air when farmers really need rain? Things like that. But the technology exists, and is it possible that Texas was a perfect storm, pun intended, of weather manipulation or exacerbation, I would say, would be more accurate, and potentially sabotage of their energy grid? I say can't rule it out. And the fact that if Texas leads the way in seceding from the Union, how many other states are gonna follow? Because I can tell you right now, they're surrounded by states that would follow them. Oklahoma, potentially Kansas, Missouri.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
Missouri is very conservative, very Christian.
Then you got South Dakota, North Dakota. You got possibly Nebraska. I'm not sure. I'm not so familiar with their political state right now. But Montana and Idaho, for sure. Right there, you have a huge swath of Middle America that would follow Texas and secede like that. So is it possible? And here's the thing, a lot of people are asking these questions. It's not just us. A lot of people, a lot of young people are asking these questions, like that young TikToker.
Yeah.
Okay, people are starting to look at the signs and go, yeah, federal government probably doesn't want Texas to secede. The week after they introduced this bill in their legislature, snowstorm and massive power outages. Is it connected? Awfully coincidental. And people are no longer in the mood to entertain coincidences anymore. They're like, yeah, no, most popular president of all time loses in a supposed landslide. Oh, a landslide that only reached 6 out of 50 states. Yeah, coincidence? Yeah, no, we're not entertaining coinky-dinks anymore. No. Fine, thank you. Oh, and remember last week we were talking about that Syria strike that Biden did?
Right.
And we were talking about, well, okay, maybe was this a good thing? Was it not? And I was like, I'm gonna withhold judgment on this. Well, I heard just the other day that it finally came out, the details about the strike. No, it was not a strike against Syria to keep them in line. It was a strike against the militias that have been rebelling against Syria.
Okay.
In other words, it was not in the U.S. best interest. Remember, those are some of the militias that Trump was helping to support during his term. Or that he had said, some of these, Trump made some distinctions when it came to things overseas in the Middle East. He's like, okay, look, you got the Syrians doing this and this and this, and they're in cahoots with the Russians. And then you've got these militia members here, and they're not terrorists, they're fighting back, and they're trying to reclaim, their land and their freedom, etc. Well, apparently it was militias like that those airstrikes were aimed at. So yeah, Joe Schmo or whoever's pulling his puppet strings, yeah, that wasn't an attack on Syria. It wasn't a warning shot to maintain our sovereignty or anything. No, he was helping somebody.
Well,
contrary.
And then there again, the hypocrisy. Okay, anytime Trump did anything, they were like coming after him and saying, well, he had no right to do that. And, we should be taking away his commander-in-chief powers, essentially. But now, when Biden does it, Psaki comes out and says, oh, well, he will do what needs to be done.
Well, the other thing fun that I found out about this too is Kamala was not told about the Syria strike, and she's pissed. Yeah, Jack Posobiec had a tweet out today, said that Kamala Harris was not informed prior to the Syrian bombing and is very upset about being left out of the loop per a White House official. Oh, really now? Oh, yeah. Also, did you see that Kamala had to remind Joe to pick up his mask after one of his speeches?
Oh, I missed that one.
Yeah, it was. I think it was around surrounding like COVID-19 distribution, vaccine distribution, something like that. Yeah, that was funny.
He should have probably put that on his index card.
Yeah. Oh, but then he'll read it. Thank you all for having me here. Remember, get back, stay safe, and pick up your mask after the speeches. Oh, that's for me. Is that for me? Is it who wrote? Oh, come on, man, who wrote this? Yeah. But keep in mind too that several Democrats.
If you mess with me, I'll take you behind the gym and beat your butt.
Right. But yeah, keep in mind too that several Democrats have asked Biden to give up the sole access to the nuclear codes. Yes, they want him to include the vice president and the speaker of the House.
So everybody wants to have the nuclear football. Say, hey, Joe, I need the nuclear football today. Why don't you just hand it to me? And it's like, we'll just pass it around,
Right.
Yeah, it's like, well, I get the nuclear football today, and you'll get it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll share it.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of sharing,
You throw the nuclear football like a football, right?
right.
Pass it to you.
And speaking of sharing, also, everybody, as you all know, we're getting throttled more and more on Facebook. I did share to a bunch of groups, and there's fewer and fewer groups again, including some that I recently just joined, and I couldn't find them. Interesting.
Yeah.
Coincidence? I think not. But yeah, if you all want to share our live stream, that would help as well, because Facebook can't stop the shares.
No,
They
they
can
can't.
stop the views from showing up in people's news feeds. Even the people who have gone ahead and subscribed to us or followed or liked us.
Yep.
They'll keep it from popping up in your feeds, but they can't stop you from sharing it.
By the way, on the subject of groups, I want to mention that everybody that hasn't already done so, they need to go to nmfa.us and sign up and want to get in with a group of like-minded people that believe in liberty and freedom. They're actually getting together. They're doing things together. They have a weekly thing where they do a dance and a live band and a potluck and booze and all kinds of stuff, just like being free. And needless to say, we're going to be going to one on Sunday. If you can join us, that'd be awesome. It's up in San
We'll see.
6:30.
3
And
to 6:30. We might be able to do that.
and it's really fun, and it's
gotta
really
see
a
what's
bunch.
on our
They
schedule.
have a great show up, and yeah, and they have a live band, and it's really great. And the guy that owns the place, he donates it for our use, and it's really good. So
I
yeah,
hear there's dancing.
yeah,
There's music and dancing.
music and
Speaking
dancing.
of dancing, our studio has gotten back into live performance.
Oh, nice.
We did not advertise it because we had to keep it in studio at first. But we're gonna make this a regular thing, and it's kind of gonna have to be an underground thing for now. But there's going to be some other breweries that we've danced at before opening up that I need to contact and see if maybe they're interested in having us perform as well. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of underground stuff. It's kind of exciting, actually.
Underground, it's like a speakeasy.
I used to wish that speakeasies still really existed when I was a kid. I'm like, oh, that would have been so cool.
Yeah,
Be
well,
rebellious, go to a speakeasy. Lo and behold, wish
we
granted.
got a speakeasy.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, maybe I didn't know what I was wishing for. Maybe I didn't quite fully understand. I'd still like to go back to normal, but okay, you know what? Speakeasy's cool. Very cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
That's what I'm going to call it. So let me tell you a little bit about this Texas thing that in case in case people don't know. Okay, you hear about these huge electric bills, and I saw this. You heard about the guy that had the $17,000 electric bill. Okay. So,
yes.
The reason this happened is because you'll see here, 5-figure energy bills, Texas lawmakers, investment failures, and so basically they have a deregulated energy system in Texas where people can pick which energy company they want to go with. Unlike here in New Mexico, like for instance, me, I'm on Central New Mexico Electric, and I have no other choices. Yeah. That is it. And just like you're on PNM, probably, I guess.
Yes.
And so we don't have any choices like that, and we have reliable electric bills. We know what they're going to be. They may not be the lowest there is, but they're reliable, and they don't go beyond a certain point. Whereas in Texas, you can pick which electric company you want to go with, and for the most part, the rates might be lower than everybody else under normal circumstances. But you can hear on those particular 5 days in which they had this problem, the energy bills, and that's from the generating stations, increased, the amount that they cost increased by 180 times the average hourly rate.
Whoa! Holy moly!
180 times. And let me show you a little bit how this works. This is kind of neat. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how this works. Okay, and let's see here. Okay, I'm going to bring in another one. And my friend Tony is the one that got me this stuff, so it's kind of neat. Okay, so if you look at this, yeah, okay, so I am going to go to one that is fluctuating wildly. You notice over on the left-hand side, you'll see where it says LMP. That's basically, and all these over on the far left, these are all the various different generating stations. There's a whole bunch of them. And you'll notice the LMP, that is the rate that they are currently providing their power for. Okay, and you notice it's averaging, you know, on most of them they're $27. But you notice there's a couple of them like this Anna Cacho underscored Anna is 104.78.
Huh.
Or the one up towards the top, that Amistad underscore all 89.21. This is real time. You'll notice it's changing by the minute. So
wow.
So this is how, and basically something like this is what happened. Like you saw that one for like $89. Let me see if I can find one that's really big. They're at, and there's a couple down there like $2. And 15, 27, 13. So you get these few that like spike up really high. Oh, here's one, $116.72. So what happened on those 5 days is, if you would have been looking at this chart, you would have seen something go up to like 9,000.
Wow.
Like 27. And then, of course, that's from the generating plant. And then you have the electric companies that are buying the energy. And if they're limited to buying the energy from like some of these ones that are having these skyrocketing prices, then guess what? That cost gets paid on to the consumer, because on these plans that they have, it's like there's no limit to how high they can go. And these people realize that that was the case. So
I know CNN had an article out just the other day saying that Texas officials are going to be looking into a lot of these high energy bills.
Well,
and I'm willing to bet that, yeah, that ain't going to last much longer.
Well, you know what's going to happen is like people didn't read the fine print on their contracts, but there's going to be lawyers out that they're there, and there's going to be lawsuits. Yeah. So you know that's coming. As a matter of fact, I think I heard some news report that the lawyers are already coming out and the lawsuits are already flying.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, they'll be that. Also, there's going to be pushback against individuals too, and this is where the capital market comes into play. Is people realize this, and there's going to be a rebalancing in the energy market in Texas. There's going to be people who are like, no, we're not signing on to this anymore. Change it.
Yeah.
You better change it, or we're going to sue you.
Yeah.
So, and energy companies very quickly will, because, and again, this can happen in Texas because there are competing energy companies. The first company in Texas, energy-wise, that comes out and says, okay, you know what? Well, this was ridiculous. You're right. We probably should have highlighted this more and fixed this in advance. But there's going to be caps from now on. So your energy bill no longer has a chance of going sky high if there's that once in a lifetime ice storm in Texas.
Well,
people are going to flock to that energy company, and the other energy companies. This is how capitalism works, people. For those of you who are like, capitalism is fascist. Oh, really? Now, no, capitalism empowers people. Choices empower people. The other companies are going to go, oh, crap, we better get on board with the program and cap these things off, because otherwise we're going to have our profit margin and you know, affected and we're going to go out of business. And yeah, it's affected by them wanting to make a profit.
And
They're a
here's the
business.
thing.
They
It's
have
like,
to.
here's the way they're going to look at it. It's like what happened just a while back with those 5 days in which all of that crap happened happens like never. Okay. And so, and just like insurance companies, okay, they offer you an insurance policy for a certain price because they are gambling on the idea that they're never going to have to pay off. So on these energy companies, they can make a guarantee like that because they're going to figure something like this happens once in a never, and when it does happen, we'll just eat it for a few days if that's what it takes. And we can afford that. So, but basically what happened on that with those high energy prices is there was a shortage of energy. There wasn't enough to go around to everybody.
Nope.
And so basically it was let the market determine who gets it. It's like, okay, you want the energy over this guy over here, you got to pay more.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
And here's the thing, according to economics, and this is not a theory, Thomas Sowell pointed out, and and I've always found this to be true, and several people have said, hey, if you find another way to distribute scarce or limited resources, let us know. You'll win the Pulitzer Peace Prize. There's only 2 ways to distribute resources: scarce or limited, and everything to some extent can be labeled scarce. Even humans, we're a resource. Our hours, we only have 24 hours in a day, and a certain number of those have to be dedicated to sleep. So like, say, a doctor is a scarce resource. You got to go to school for that. It's a specialized, then there's specialists. He only has so many hours of the day that he can be effective in treating people and seeing people. But there are only 2 ways to allocate scarce resources. The first one is by setting a value and a price. Okay, people pay for resources. How much do you really want to see this doctor? How much do you really want that energy? The other way is rationing, which is what happens in socialist programs and when the government intervenes in any part of your life. And that's what's been happening in healthcare lately. Healthcare is having to be rationed. And if, okay, now I don't get to see a doctor even though I have cancer and I really need a cancer update because they found another tumor, but I keep getting put off and I can't see the doctor. Oh, now it's a year later. Do you think I'm being hypothetical, people? This happened to my mother. This happened to my mother just this past year. She has had breast cancer and she had another node or nodule or whatever they call it appear right before Wu flu struck. And because Wu flu could not get in to see her doctor, her oncologist.
And they're talking about 500,000 people dead. Do you think maybe they manufactured a lot of those deaths by preventing people from getting the care they needed with the scamdemic? Okay, it's like, no, you can't go get your preventative care now because it's too dangerous to go to the hospital. So what did they do? They had literally empty hospitals, not allowing people to come in for treatment.
And it's not even that they had to manufacture anything. It's the law of unintended consequences. But as the unintended consequences started rolling in, media's got a certain narrative and everyone's got a certain narrative. And hospitals, unfortunately, and this is one of the things I did not agree with President Trump. See, people, I said it. I don't agree with the president on everything. I did not agree that he incentivized hospitals to report cases as COVID deaths. He meant well. He was under pressure, but I believe he was receiving bad advice. And incentivizing hospitals by giving them federal dollars for every COVID case that was admitted and every COVID death that was reported on their watch. It created this problem. And by the way, this is not just me saying it. This is doctors that I've been talking to the past year who, when it first came out and the government started giving hospitals money for this, they start saying, yeah, we've been noticing a trend here, and yeah, our hospital basically gets kickbacks from the government, so we don't think our own hospitals are reporting things accurately. We think they're over-reporting.
Well,
This is doctors here in New Mexico.
Just like they were making so much money putting people on a vent. They were literally putting people on vents just so they could get some money.
Killing them.
Yes, and killing them.
And killing them.
You know, putting somebody on a vent is a last resort. If you put somebody on a vent, they're probably going to die.
So do I think it was all Machiavellian and planned out that they were going to manufacture all these deaths as a result? No, not necessarily. Just because, and so this is where conspiracy theories, how you can tell a conspiracy theory from a valid theory, is if there are so many moving parts, and in order to believe the conspiracy theory, you have to believe that all those moving parts are working perfectly together. But yeah, most likely it is a conspiracy theory. However, instead of thinking, oh yeah, they meant for all of this to happen exactly the way it did, the other flip side to that is they created the conditions whereby they could take advantage of any subsequent deaths, regardless of cause, label them and attribute them to whatever their specific narrative calls for.
Yeah, they created an opportunity, and greedy people took advantage of it.
Well, not even created, just, when the president signed that, and granted, could he have been coerced into it? Could he have been unwittingly manipulated into it? Yeah. In fact, I think there's a highly good chance that this would happen. But they don't need to all plan together, because when the news goes out that the narrative is this: to get Trump out of the White House, we got to push COVID, 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 emergency, 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 emergency. Then everyone just looks around and goes, okay, so what supports this narrative? Oh, there's so many deaths. Oh, okay, well, that death was because he broke his neck in a car accident. Again, not a hypothetical, people. Actually happened. It was either April or May of last year in northern New Mexico. And the mother of the son who died in the car crash, broke his neck, looked at the death certificate and said, what the heck? My son didn't die of COVID-19. He was in a freaking car wreck.
He died of a broken neck.
Broke his neck. Yes, what the heck? Yeah, so...
Yeah, but if he hadn't had COVID,
then you have things like that because the hospital he was probably admitted to post-accident looked at him and said, oh, hey, if we do a test and it comes positive and we can claim this death as a COVID death, that's another $300,000. And here's the thing. You can't even blame the hospitals for this. Why? Because our governess, tiny tyrant, Wuhan, shut down electives. She sabotaged the medical community.
Yeah.
You know what? But they're electives. What do people think about when you say, oh, this is elective surgery? They think,
I'm going to go get a boob job today or something like that.
Boob job.
No, it's not like that.
Well, guess what? A lot of people, including my own mother, have had to have elective nose surgery. Why? Because they had freaking deviated septums and were only getting 25% or less of their oxygen intake due to the deviated septum and nasal cavities that were partially blocked.
Yeah.
But that falls under elective surgery. I wonder how many deviated septums have gone untreated this whole past year.
Natalie, I had to have
electives were canceled.
I had to have surgery on my nose for that reason. Mine was restricted down to about 20%. Literally, if you would have covered my mouth for any length of time, I would have died. I would have suffocated.
Yes. Yeah. No, most of the people I've known who had deviated septums were mouth breathers. Oh, guess what happens when you put a mask on and you're dependent on your breath? Yeah. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. Might we have a problem now for those people? Yeah. ADA, anybody? Hello. So all of this was happening. And again, it's not exactly that it all was planned out this way. But I do believe the Democrat governors in the blue states had the biggest hand in this by essentially shutting down hospitals, because that's what you do when you rule out electives. When you say, oh, no electives because we want to make space for the emergencies. Most of the hospitals were empty. Even in South Dakota, the governor,
doctors and nurses Well, doctors and nurses were literally being laid off.
Yeah, they were being
It's
laid
like,
off.
what,
They
we
were
have
standing
this huge
around.
public health emergency and doctors and nurses are being laid off. Think,
Practices
people, how does that
closed.
make any sense?
Yeah, practices had to close. I know one dental tech, not even dentist, dental tech company who had to lay off their employees for several months because all of the dental electives were canceled. Therefore, the dental tech company that makes bridges, partials, root canals, implants, they had no work to do, so they had to lay off dozens of people. And that was just one company. It was happening across the entire state. So you had these governors say, oh, we're shutting down this part of society and this part of society. And whether they intended it or not, and to some extent, I don't credit any of them with being this smart
No,
for
they're not.
seeing, oh, yeah, this will do this and this and this downline,
Well,
like
what
a
happened is
domino
you had a
effect.
chain reaction of events and they took advantage of
Yes.
them as they came along.
It was a chain reaction of events. And again, in some ways, you can't blame the hospitals because in order to stay open, they had to meet their bottom line. The bills don't stop coming, people, and hospitals are expensive places to maintain. So
Guess
what
where
do
they
they
make a
do?
lot of guess where they make a lot of their money? Electives.
Yes, an elective does not mean unnecessary. No. Do you have any idea how many procedures for cancer patients are considered elective? Because they're not ER problems. They're not emergency room standard problems. They're considered electives. That's why my mother couldn't see a doctor for almost a freaking year, and she's a cancer patient. Am I pissed off about that still? You bet I'm pissed off about it. If she dies because a tumor got out of hand, because she couldn't get seen in a year, oh, you betcha I'm suing the state and the medical board
Yeah, you
and the
definitely wouldn't.
pharmaceutical board
You definitely
and the
wouldn't.
Secretary of Public Freaking Health.
Well, you definitely wouldn't have to complain about being poor anymore.
Well, hopefully not.
Yeah.
Although it will be hard to sue the state, etc. Don't get me wrong on that one. I'm pretty sure I could find a lawyer maybe who's willing to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe. But yeah, so all of this just to say that all of these things came together. Yes, the hospitals decided to take advantage of a given cash cow. They were placed in hard straits. They needed to keep their heads above water. And it was an obvious step for them to say, well, we'll get 39,000 if we report this as a COVID death. We'll get 13,000 for admitting this patient as a COVID patient. Okay, no brainer. I'm not going to leave over $50,000 on the table. That is what businesses do. And when governments tamper with any market, be it healthcare, be it insurance, be it schools and education and school, oh yeah, funding and loans, whenever the government intercedes and tampers with it, they screw it up. They screw it up. I mean, please, somebody prove me wrong. The government screws up every single industry that they put their hand
You know what?
into. Prove me wrong.
They've actually had a history, and actually, what was that? There was a whorehouse that they took over, and they couldn't even make money on that. Where was that?
In Nevada.
In Nevada.
Outside of Las
closed it
Vegas
down.
in that one county where they're still legal.
Yeah. And the government took it over, and it went belly up. They couldn't even run a whorehouse.
No, they can't even do that. Yeah. No, and this is not just the United States, people. This is any government. Any government across the board, when they start fiddling with a part of society or economics, it goes belly up pretty fast. Then it needs extra subsidies. Then it gets bloated because there's too many middlemen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's happened all throughout history. I dare anybody prove me wrong on that. Prove me wrong. Now, granted, there are some things that we do need, especially in this country, we're so far spread, interstate infrastructure. Okay, some of that to some extent makes sense. National defense, an army. Yeah. Privatized army, really not a good idea, and we do have historical data to back that up.
Well,
yeah, whoever pays the army.
If it was privatized, there'd actually be incentives to start a war.
Precisely. And we've seen that again and again. Now, it does make sense that the United States
here.
Yeah, the United
Obama on them over there, and I'm sure that they'll want to fight back.
And that's where I disagree with some of my more libertarian friends who are far libertarian on the military issue. I'm like, I agree we should not be policing the world. We need to bring our men and women home. And Trump tried. He was trying his darndest. Oh, yeah, and he was unmasking the swamp left and right, especially among Republicans who are warmongers and didn't want him bringing those home because, they get a lot of kickbacks from all of those overseas contracts. Yeah. But yeah, we should have brought our men and women home. We should not be policing the globe. That's not our job. We shouldn't be paying the bill and footing the bill for NATO when they're not paying their fair share, all of that stuff. But we do need a national defense. Grant you that one. And a judicial system? Yeah, probably not good for judges to be paid by private individuals. So, kind of need a national judicial system, things like that. But when it comes into
if they were paid by private individuals, people like El Chapo would never serve any jail time. But it's like, hey, listen, Judge, if you'll just kind of sweep this one under the rug, I'll slip you $1 million. It's like, oh, okay, you're out of here.
And that's not to say that some people still don't manage to pay off judges or congressmen and women and things like that. But hey, it's still better than the other private alternative. But no, getting into like the food industry, what the heck do you think the FDA is about? Pharmaceuticals and regulations with pharmaceuticals. Get out of my money, get out of my food, get out of my medicines, get out of vaccines. Get out of school and school choice. Get out. Get out of the medical and health field. And I've known people who work in the medical fields and the insurance fields, and they all say the same things. It's not that things were perfect before Obama and before Obamacare, but wow, did things get exponentially worse after Obamacare. I mean, we know that personally as a family. We had a very affordable rate, a very affordable plan, no deductibles. Our payments a month were manageable. And then after Obamacare, I mean, they started going up by 50%, 100%, 300%. Not kidding.
Yeah.
It was outrageous. And the deductibles were so high. We had to get on Medicaid anyway because we couldn't have paid them ever. Yeah.
I had a policy through Blue Cross Blue Shield that I had had for years. It was like $125 a month.
You like your plan, you can keep your plan. You like your doctor, you keep your doctor. Liar. Your pants on fire.
But when Obama was talking about that, remember when that congressman stood up and called him a liar? And it's like, he was right.
He was right.
Yeah. He apologized. Yeah, and then he apologized. He shouldn't have apologized.
No, never apologize to the left. Yeah. Never ever apologize.
It's not going to get you anything. Don't apologize. Stick with what you said.
Yes.
It's like, no, I called you a liar and I mean it because I do believe you're a liar. So just deal with it. That's what I would have done.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
I'd be like, okay, prove me wrong.
Yeah.
Really? Because and it was not that hard to see. Oh yeah. Does anyone remember Nancy saying, "You can read it when you pass it"?
Yeah.
We haven't had time to read this. What's up, Nancy? Come on, give us the paper. You just give us the freaking summary.
What was it, like 9,000 pages or something?
Thousands of pages long. You can read it when you pass it. Oh, really, Dictator Pelosi? Now, our country has a dictator right now, and she's in the House of Representatives and currently goes by Speaker of the House. And she thinks that she's so special. She thinks the rules don't apply to her. Did we talk about once the instance of her? Let's see. She didn't go through the security checkpoint like she was supposed to, per her own mandate that everyone who comes into the House or Senate has to go through this woo-flu security checkpoint. And she bypassed it one day. And many people noticed. So a bunch of congressmen and women got together and basically told the sergeant at arms, you need to censure her and you need to fine her per her own mandate and mandatory fines that she laid out. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that recently. Did she get fined? Oh, not likely. Not likely. But yeah,
No.
that just shows that she thinks she's the ruler and she's above everybody else.
Yeah.
She thinks
So,
she tells us what to do. No.
so I saw something interesting the other day, and I wish I could find the darn video about and I've been talking about Australia for a while now. And you normally think of Australia as being a free country.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Sort of.
Well, I saw a
Yeah.
video of, they are having some serious protests in the streets over vaccines. Australia is trying to push a vaccine certificate. Like I've been warning,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to try to do it in this country.
Oh, yes.
I found some actual documented evidence of this. This is not a rumor. This is really happening. And let me show you something here. See here. Okay, there. Okay, here we are. That one there. So.
Oh, yes, the passports.
Yeah.
But by the way, our own ACLU is against immunization passports.
Well, it's about time they stepped up against something.
Right? Something, finally.
Let's see here. So, let's see. Passports, rollout of COVID-19 vaccines on Australia inches closer. Governments and businesses have turned their minds to how individuals can eventually prove they have received a vaccine. And I've been warning about this happening in this country.
Mm-hmm.
You're already seeing these corporations getting out of control. These corporations no longer have any regard whatsoever for ADA or HIPAA laws at all. They're throwing them out the window, and the government is not doing anything to crack down on them.
No. Well, again, also remember that Australia doesn't have our own civil rights. I think they have kind of an Australian equivalent, but it doesn't go quite as far as our ADA and Civil Rights Act here in the United States. But if they try to pass this here in the United States, ACLU has said for months that they do not like the idea of vaccine passports because it will exclude people who are other able. There are people who will die if they get vaccines.
Yeah, and people have died.
Yeah, and in the medical profession, it's like, well, you could get the virus and you might die, but if you get the vaccine, you're definitely going to die. Whether it's because you have an allergy to stuff that's generally in vaccines, or you have an immune system that can't take it. And I've known some people like that. And you know what? They've been careful for years during flu season. They've been physically distancing for years. Sometimes they glove up and wear masks. They do whatever makes them comfortable. They avoid large gatherings. They've been doing this for years. They didn't need to be told to do all this. They've already been doing it. But they can't get vaccines, as in they will die if they get a vaccine. And this would exclude them from so many parts of society. And it's those people on their behalf that I started first looking into what the heck can we do about businesses around here that are keeping people out with, because they won't wear masks, even if it's for medical reasons.
Yeah.
Come on. You are discriminating against people with disabilities, medical disabilities. That's not cool. So you said you did complain to the DOJ and file an ADA report against Chili's, right? Good.
Yeah.
The other thing too,
corporate, and like I said, I hit them with a really nasty review online too.
Good. Did you also send or write out your experience in the form of an affidavit yet?
No, but I think I'll do that too.
Yeah, go to and it's a good time to remind everyone, if you go to thehealthyamerican.org, thehealthyamerican.org, and go to, let's see here, was it logs and legals? It's documents. And go to documents. You can, print out, and they actually have great documents that you can just print out and distribute concerning laws, documents, and letters. But you can also get an affidavit to fill out, and it's a notice of discrimination. And you can print out the form, fill it out, and here's what I would do. It's always great, she recommends filling it out right then and there while you're having the incident. That's what I did when we were at Great Harvest, and that's why they tried to sue us before we could sue them.
Yeah.
Which didn't turn out well for them either. I'm sure they had to eat a lot of court costs. But you can also do what's called the poor man's service, which is return receipt. So you can mail it to them. And if you do that, if you mail them a copy of the affidavit of discrimination, also mail a copy and put in there that you mailed a copy to their corporate complaint address. You can also have it served. I think it's like $40 or $50 to have Bernalillo County Sheriff serve them papers. And the sheriff doesn't even have to know what's in it.
Yeah.
They just serve it and have them sign and take down that, yes, indeed, Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department served this document to this restaurant.
Nice.
So that is actually a great way to really drive home, hey, no good.
Yeah.
No good. And not only did we have the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office serve it, we have sent the same affidavit to your corporate office and notified them that we have filed a complaint with the DOJ and we had you served by a sheriff's officer. So this is the kind of thing, people, that we can do to fight back. And this is the kind of thing that we must start doing. And again, back to rules for radicals. Make them live up to their own rule book. Make them live up to their own standards. They've been using the law against us for a long time. It's time we start using it against them and start pushing back.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, it's really ridiculous that they wouldn't let you do that, because like lately, I mean, go into most of the big grocery stores and even Walmart around here, and they don't bother you. I'll even admit now, unfortunately, because of my family's diet and the fact that I have a huge family, there are some things that I do still have to get at Costco. So that's where I do my whole thing with, headscarf, etc., and I don't get bothered. I went in there recently to grab a few things. I didn't get bothered at all. Not even by the people in the checkout, not even by the people at the door. I passed several people. Every now and then someone might bother me. And I'm like, okay, and I actually had a sheer scarf on this time too. And I'm like, okay, I'll pull the scarf up over my nose. It's like, really, you think this is doing anything, people? But this last several times that I've been out and around places, and granted, I go to a lot of places that I know for sure already I'm not going to be bothered. Yeah. Because they actually respect my rights and respect me as a person and an intelligent, responsible adult over any silly public health mandate.
Over the weekend, I went to both Walmart and Smith's. Neither one of them hassled me at all. Mm-hmm. Like I've been saying all along, I will continue doing business with any place that doesn't hassle me. But as soon as you hassle me, I am not only not, I'm not going to do business with you anymore, ever. So
I will say, I haven't been back.
To wake up and decide, no, I'm still not going to do business with you.
Yeah.
Once you've done this to me, you are done forever.
I will say I haven't been back to the Eubank Costco because they were the worst out of all the three Costcos in town. They're the worst.
Yeah, they're the one that I made a scene and canceled my membership. So
yeah,
whatever.
So yeah, but no, we need to push back against these places, and we need to let them know, hey, we know, and we're not just going to move along silently. We're going to make noise, because here's the thing: the other side, the Marxists, the commie-crats, they're making noise. Oh,
Oh,
you betcha they're making noise. And they're still making noise. And they're still trying to come down on places, including restaurants, who aren't requiring masks. And you're not following public health standards. And I don't trust you guys to keep me safe. It's like, okay, then don't go to that restaurant. What
right.
the
That's simple.
but in the same vein, we usually do have that tendency where, okay, someone wouldn't let me in without a mask. Okay, I guess I'll just go somewhere else. But we need to do more than that. We need to vote with our dollars, sure, but then we need to complain and we need to raise holy hell
Yeah.
because others are doing that. And there are more of us than there are of them. There are
Yeah.
more of us conservatives, true liberals, libertarians, freedom loving people who just want to be left the hell alone.
Yeah. I just want
And
to go about my life, and I want to go shop for groceries,
right,
and I want to go sit down at a restaurant every once in a while, and
yeah,
I don't want to have people screwing with me.
right. Get
Leave me
out of my
alone.
face. Get out of my face. I am paying for the privilege to be in here. You want my money or not? Oh, you don't want my money. Oh, you want to tell me what to do with my body. That's the other thing too,
Yeah.
is, excuse me, are you, especially if it's a man, are you mansplaining? Are you telling me what to do with my body? I'm sorry, my body, my choice. You have no clue what my medical history is like. You
Right.
have
Whatever
no
happened to
clue
the
what that
whatever
will
happened
do
to
to me.
whatever happened to the pro-choice crowd? Where are they now?
Right.
What about my
My
choice?
body, my choice. Oh, they hate
Yeah.
it when we say that. They hate it when we
Yeah.
say that. You can't say that. Why not? You guys have been saying it for
Well,
years.
yeah,
It's
you said
still my body.
pro-choice.
I'm
I mean,
sorry. Just because it's not my ovaries doesn't mean it's not part of my body.
well,
Doesn't
I thought
matter.
when you said pro-choice that it means that I have a choice. Well, I'm making a
Right.
choice. This is my choice. Why aren't you
Yeah.
respecting my choice?
Yeah. So step back, stay 6 feet away. I prefer it. Get
Yeah.
out of my
I
choice.
really want you
Get
away
out of
from
my
me because I just
face.
don't like you.
Right. Yeah, I don't know you. I don't like you already, and I don't want to see you again. So, yeah, step back. I'll take my money elsewhere, and I'll go ahead and give you a bad name. And don't feel bad about doing this. And I know some people say, oh, but why would we be doing this to small businesses? Well, notice people that the small businesses are following the lead of many of the big businesses. So go ahead and do it to the big businesses. But here's the thing, with small businesses, your voice matters more actually than with a corporation. I went into Amy's Donuts the other day, actually over a month ago, just get some donuts. I would have actually been happy to get curbside service, but their phone number wasn't working. I couldn't let them know that I was there.
Yeah.
I had to go in the building. Oh, you need to wear a mask. Didn't ask what I need help with. Didn't ask if I was there for curbside pickup or order or whatever. So I'm like, okay, fine. You're going to start this fight.
Well, you know,
I'll roll with it.
they don't even care anymore if you're it's like you're selling donuts. Don't you care if I buy any damn donuts from you?
Yes,
All you care
you're
is
a
if I
donut
wear a
shop.
freaking mask.
I'm like, hey, I'm 6 feet back. There's plexiglass between you and me. We're good. I'm here for a dozen donuts. It was an online order. And then they finally didn't snap to it until, after 10 minutes or so of arguing. And I just stayed in there and I was videotaping with my phone and stuff. And they didn't snap to it. Oh, well, if it's an online order, did you pay online? I'm like, yeah, my husband probably did. But oh, guess what? Your phone number's not working, so we couldn't let you know that we're there curbside. Well, you have to go out there and wait because I was trying to pay. I'm like, well, here's my credit card. I'll put it on the counter and you can just take it. And by the way, I'm touching it, and whether I've got a mask on or not, that makes absolutely no difference with the card. We can't serve you without a mask. We can't serve you. I'm immune, people. I'm
Yeah.
immune. I'm not sick.
Yeah.
I'm not sick, and also I have a medical condition that gets exacerbated by face masks. So, do you want to be reported to the ADA? Because I'll report you to the or to the DOJ for an ADA violation. I don't want to. You're a great local business, but right now you are trampling on my rights and you're discriminating against me. That's mask discrimination. And of course, they didn't like that either. So I'm like, okay, I'll go the whole 9 rounds with you. I don't mind. I got nothing else to do right now. which actually wasn't true. But I'm like, yeah, I got 10 minutes to kill.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll do this.
Awesome.
So yeah, so I won't be back in Amy's Donuts anymore, which is really too bad. They got some nice donuts, but hey, if they're going to be that way, they are a local business. And again, your voice matters even more when it is a small local business.
Yeah.
And don't think for a moment that the left hasn't been doing this to them as well, and doing this to putting pressure on all local businesses. Sometimes I think they just go through the phone book and go, okay, which business is next? Let's call and complain.
Yeah.
Seriously, some of them do that. It's in the Antifa. It's in one of the handbooks, actually, to put pressure on local businesses that provide goods and services. This is already happening. So don't feel bad for doing it, because here's the thing. If businesses get more pressure from one side and almost no pressure from the other side, which side do you think they're going to side with and listen to? They're going to think that their customers believe, based on the side that they're getting pushback from. So you better start complaining. Don't think of it as complaining. Think of it as voting. Think of it as letting your opinion be known, and that you are on the side of freedom and civil rights and liberties. And if this business is no longer on the side of civil rights and liberties, you're going to make it very public that they're not.
That's right.
Yeah. And see how well that goes over with their customer base.
Yeah.
You know, pressure, people, pressure campaign. We keep up the pressure.
Keep up the pressure.
Keep putting the pressure on. I think that was number 8 for Alinsky's rule for radicals.
Yes, that's right.
Keep the pressure on.
Keep the pressure going.
That's right.
So, did you hear?
Yeah, we can't let.
You probably didn't, but did you watch the Golden Globe Awards by any chance?
No.
No. So I remember. Okay, I remember before all this nonsense that those shows used to be fun to watch. They were like an escape. But then what they started doing was bringing the politics in. It's like, why can't you leave the politics out of my damn entertainment? Okay, and what they did is they started bringing the politics in, and then they brought in the comics that aren't funny, and they're talking about politics. Now, like last year, that one guy that came in and just really stuck it to him. Of course, they'll never have him back, but man, he nailed them. You probably heard that one, right?
Oh yes. Oh gosh, what's his name?
He's a comedian.
Yeah, he's a comedian. He's incredibly sarcastic, and he just let everyone have it. This was 2019, I believe.
It was, oh my God, he let him have it.
Yeah.
So anyway, so Tina Fey comes out, I think it was the day before yesterday, and claimed that there will be no politics in the Golden Globe Awards. It's like, wow, well, that's nice. It's about freaking time. And, you know, it's like, but what awards are they going to give away? What movies have anybody been able to go see last year?
Right. So, well, they've all been released, you know, via live streaming, the ones that have been released. But, you know, so many movies have been held back.
Yeah.
So many.
I want to freaking see Top Gun Maverick.
Me too.
I want to see the next season of Jack that movie.
Yeah. Maverick, they so don't want to release them via, you know, streaming services, because they know the money they would make once people can be back in theaters. But not all states are back in theaters yet. And they did release Wonder Woman. They released the
states that are back in theaters. The theaters are dead.
Yeah.
Theaters are gone. They are gone.
Well, there's been some theaters that have really pushed to be normal, notably AMC theaters, especially in states that are open and wide open, and those people are still going to theaters there. But the theaters that are really getting on board with, you know, all the mass craziness and stuff, they're the ones who are going to be suffering the most. So yeah, they've lost a lot of money over holding back these releases, but at the same time, once they release them, they can't ever release them again to cash in on the box office. I mean, Wonder Woman 1984 was released, and that was heralded as, oh, the biggest box office release of COVID times. And I'm like, even that was a pale comparison to box office flops.
I don't think they broke even on that one.
No, they didn't.
No.
Not at all. Not
Money.
even close.
Yeah.
Not even. And this is going to change. In some ways, this is a good thing. Hollywood's getting kicked in the nuts.
Well,
They're
they've been pushing leftist nonsense for years, and now they've got it. Now they've got what they wanted, and it's like, guess what?
And it's hurting them.
Yeah,
It's hurting them in a huge way.
Yeah, they've
but
been
one of the things that I do want to see soon is Run, Hide, Fight by the Daily Wire. Have you heard of that one?
No.
Oh, so Daily Wire is Ben Shapiro's outfit. And they have decided, Ben Shapiro decided, yeah, we need a parallel economy. And one of the things that the Daily Wire has decided to do, their contribution to the parallel economy, is movies.
Nice.
So they came out with a movie called Run, Hide, Fight. It's about a school shooting. and here I'll pull it up for you all so that you can at least see it. But it's great, and I've heard that it's actually incredibly well done. They actually have the budget to hire really good people on this, like not just actors, but the production staff. Because in some ways, it doesn't matter if you've got great actors if your production staff sucks. So this is Run, Hide, Fight, and actually, I might have to hang on. I want to show you all the trailers, so I'm going to need to share the audio on this as well because it's got audio. And it's it's really good. Okay, so here we go. There we go. So there's Run, Hide, Fight. And let's see, there it is. Oh no, that's Finding Nazis Everywhere. Oh yeah, Matt Walsh show. Yeah, they've got all kinds of stuff on Daily Wire that you can watch. But you can stream Run, Hide, Fight live. Because all Zoe Hall wants to is to get through the last few weeks of her senior year. But then her high school is attacked by 4 nihilistic gun-toting students who plan to make their siege the worst school shooting in history. Oh, I thought there was a trailer, but I guess there's not a trailer on this. Darn. Oh well. Run. Oh wait, here we go. Official trailer. There we go. Is that coming through for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I really can't hear much audio.
Oh, darn it. Darn it. Let's see. And so, yeah, it's about this girl who, obviously has some firearms training from her dad, and her school, it gets victimized. They're the victims of a school shooting. And one of the lines in there that really captured my attention was when she's fighting back against these guys. And she's like, what's funny is you went through all this trouble, but in the end, no one's going to remember you. They're going to remember me.
Yeah.
And it's a girl. I mean, it's like, can you say feminine empowering?
Right.
And girl empowering?
Yeah.
Come on. And so Daily Wire is also, after they released Run, Hide, Fight, and of course, Gina Carano gets canceled by cancel culture from Star Wars, The Mandalorian. And she actually was even going to have her own spinoff, and that got canceled too. Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro called her up and said, hey,
come on over. Let's do a movie.
Come on over. And he did a interview, the first interview with her since she'd been canceled. I believe it was released last Sunday of last week. And yeah, she's all on board with them to direct and act in her
Nice.
own film with them. So she's like, this is awesome because, you know, all these doors closed to me, but then this big one opened, and it actually was one of her dreams to both direct and star in a film too. So now she gets to realize that.
Right.
And
Hey,
yeah,
I think that's great. There's plenty of conservative actors out there that would
there
love
are.
to work with somebody like Ben Shapiro. It's like, yeah,
Well,
let's get together.
well,
You know,
you saw Unplanned the other day. Unplanned has a huge amount of cast that are from that conservative movement.
that was a very good movie.
So is you need to see Gosnell. Now Gosnell is kind of, I will warn you, Gosnell's kind of disgusting
Yeah. I
because they
I can't
really
find
portray
anymore.
that man accurately,
Yeah.
and the condition of his clinic, which was kind of more like a bio dump.
Yeah.
They portrayed it very accurately. I give them a lot of props for that one. It was done very well, but yeah, it's kind of disgusting.
Yeah, I'll check that one out.
Yeah, that's another good one. But yeah, there've been people who've been trying in Hollywood, the conservatives in Hollywood. But of course, the thing is, they come out like Dean Cain. You know, he was Superman and Lois and Clark,
Oh,
and
I love
I grew
him.
up watching that,
Yeah.
and I really loved it. And then it came out that he was a Christian and a conservative, and he was on this conservative movies, and so he got blacklisted by Hollywood. But he's like, you know what? I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. You guys suck it. And every now and then he's on Crowder and with the Hodge twins, and I think he might have. Who else did he do interviews with? I think Diamond and Silk might have
Yeah.
interviewed him. I could be wrong on that one.
Well, and they've actually had him on Fox News actually as
Yeah.
one of the hosts.
Yep.
Yeah.
They've had him on there. He's been on with Greg Gutfeld,
Yeah.
and I think Jesse Waters has interviewed him too. Tucker Carlson for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is this parallel economy, and someone was asking me about this the other day, oddly enough, at church. She's like, so what is this parallel economy I keep hearing about? And I'm like, well, as the true fascists try to deny us social status, economic success, oh, and justice, like one of our listeners reminded us on the radio, and,
Yeah.
and financial and political, as they try to edge us out of every single area of life, what they're doing is they're forcing us into a corner, and they're forcing us to create a parallel economy. That
Yeah.
is what Gab and Parler are on the tech social media side. Also, that's what Rumble is, and a few other like BitChute and a few other video platforms. They're and the antithesis of YouTube, basically. That's what, you know, you and I have also been looking into other platforms to possibly host websites, because we sure as hell ain't hosting our website on GoDaddy.
Yeah, you
They've
can get
paid.
some offshore providers that
Mhm.
pretty much don't follow anybody's rules.
Yeah, but ISPs, server farms, et cetera, all of those tech issues, well, phones, like we mentioned earlier, Patriot Mobile and Pure Talk are the antithesis to AT&T and T-Mobile and Verizon, and they are horrible. If anyone goes to secondvote.com, you can see just how truly horrible some of these places that you give money to are. And think of it this way. Do you really want to be spending your money in a place that donates to taking your guns and freedoms away, or to aborting babies? Put it that way. Yeah, there have been some places now that I can no longer shop on. I can't shop at, unfortunately, Chick-fil-A anymore. And someone once said, but I thought Chick-fil-A was like a Christian company and that they'd be the best. Well, actually, thanks to Second Vote, I found out otherwise. Yeah, found out that, hello, Chick-fil-A actually has gotten on board some of the libtard wagons, and it's not good. It is really not good. So yeah, secondvote.com, they are wonderful. And well, here, I'll add them to this. Oh, wait, that's the wrong one. Okay. I'll figure out how to do this one of these days. But yeah, secondvote.com, because you vote with your dollars. And whenever you vote, you've got to make sure that you know these days where your money's going to. So that's what's resulting in this second economy, this parallel economy. So yeah, second vote here gives you company scores. If they're more red, they lean liberal. Sadly, American Diabetes Association, okay, they're anti-free speech. Good to know. But yeah, if you look up Chick-fil-A, yeah, filet, there we go. There it is, Chick-fil-A. Oh yeah, they don't have a very good score. They're good on education, and they're neutral on, like, global stuff, and they're neutral on Second Amendment stuff, but anti-first freedom of speech, anti-First Amendment, anti-religion. And by the way, this score has gotten worse since I last checked it over a
See,
month ago.
that's weird. I wondered
And
how
this is the main one right here.
because
Abortion.
they definitely were, at one point in time, owned by a Christian owner.
Right, but they have been, again, pressured.
They got persecuted by the gay community for a while for
Yeah.
something, and their business actually skyrocketed as a result of that.
Right. Yeah, and they did, but unfortunately, some of their, whether it's the board of directors or otherwise, somehow they got co-opted. They got the wool pulled over their eyes, and this is interesting here. So how do they score? Direct and indirect corporate donations. So meaning these are the things that the corporate board would have to vote on and give their okay. Okay, these charities are the ones we're going to donate to. Then activities and stated policies from these companies. So like if a company comes out and says, well, we believe that every woman has the right to choose for the health for her own body, and we're not going to take a stand on that. That's already pro-abortion right there.
Yeah.
Documented sponsorships for various political and advocacy related events, like let's say PAC support or support for a specific candidate, or even like a BLM event. Corporate leadership donations, activity, and advocacy. So let's say that the CEO is a really big backer of, who knows, maybe Planned Parenthood. That gets put into their score. And then lobbying for or against issues on the federal and state levels. So any number of these goes into that score. They score on a scale of 1 to 5 on various issues, 1 being the most and the worst liberal, 3 being neutral. There's just an absence of any of that type of support either way, and 5 leaning conservative. So as an example here, let me go back and show you all phone companies. This was an eye-opener to me, and we had already we knew for a while that we needed to basically cut our phone bill down because it was getting pretty expensive. But we had no idea how bad T-Mobile really was till I looked this up. Abortion, yeah, they support abortion, against churches, anti-First Amendment, anti-Second Amendment.
Wow.
The only thing they're neutral on is, I guess you could call it like, tree hugging issues and education. Now, Patriot Mobile. So if you go to Patriot Mobile, they're the best right now. There we go. Patriot Mobile Communications. 5. Perfect score. They are conservative on everything. In fact, that is the way that their founders planned it. Then there's a Charity Mobile over here that they're neutral on everything else, but they are against abortion. They are pro-life. And then, yeah, there's T-Mobile in comparison. And of course, we use Pure Talk. Pure Talk USA, not quite as high as Patriot Mobile, but they are conservative. So as soon as we found that out, I had already been thinking of switching to either Pure Talk or Patriot Mobile. You hear their ads on Hannity and Bongino and Buck Sexton. But then when I saw this, I'm like, whoa, okay. We pay T-Mobile how much a month? I can no longer stand thinking that that money is going to kill babies.
Yeah.
And when you start, and you can do this with grocery stores. Oh man, I had no idea how bad. Oh, you want to see how bad Walmart is? Whew. Yeah,
Ooh, red.
almost as bad as you can get. They are red, red, red. Sam's Club. Okay, well they're neutral on religion.
Huh.
That's about it. Oh, and Amazon. Yeah, there we go.
They're actually green
Okay.
on something.
They're green on Second Amendment, oddly enough.
That's
And
weird.
I think one of the reasons because you can still buy ammunition to some extent on Amazon, so they're not shooting themselves in the foot on that. But everything else on Amazon is red, 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 red. So yeah, that's these days before I shop, pretty much before I shop anywhere. If I don't already know their score, I look it up, or I look it up again just to be sure, and then I look up an alternative just to see, do I have an alternative these days instead of shopping at Kroger or Smith's? I've been shopping at Albertsons. Albertsons has a little bit closer to neutral, or a lot closer compared to Kroger and Walmart. But yeah, Kroger's not as bad as Walmart, but they're still pretty bad. But Albertsons is better. So I've been slowly switching over my shopping to Albertsons. Switching over, even Costco has a bad score too on this too. Actually, let me show you all Costco on this one. And we've reduced some of the things we buy at Costco, and then we also no longer buy Kirkland products, which is their in-house brand.
Yeah.
So anti-Second Amendment and pro-abortion.
Yeah.
And those are probably the two biggest ones that mean the most to me. In fact, the one that means the most to me is pro-abortion. If they're against abortion, it's why we no longer do Chick-fil-A anymore. We do Wendy's instead.
That's so surprising with Chick-fil-A.
I know. But you saw how low Chick-fil-A's score was. The Wendy's company, neutral.
Yeah. Take a look at McDonald's.
Oh, McDonald's is bad.
Oh my gosh. How about Jack in the Box? Because that's one of my favorite places.
Let's see here. Yeah.
Pro-abortion. Bad.
Yeah.
And
Sonic, I think, was closer to neutral. They are anti-Second Amendment, but I'm like, well, okay, you're not killing babies. I can get tater tots once in a while.
yeah.
What was the other one? Carl's, I think. Carl's Jr. Yeah, Carl's Jr.'s neutral. Wendy's is neutral. Hardee's, we don't have a Hardee's here, unfortunately.
Hardee's and Carl's Jr. are actually owned by the same company.
Yeah, they're the same thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great resource. I'll include that in the description notes for you, everybody, as well, so you can look at it yourself. But yeah, that secondvote.com has been one of my go-to tools, along with the healthyamerican.org.
That's a good one.
Yeah, but they're great tools because here's the thing: we got to start voting with our dollars, and we need to start taking responsibility for where's our money going. And if you look at it that way, and maybe you don't care about abortion. Okay, that's fair. I can't tell you what to care about, but maybe you care more about your Second Amendment rights. You can actually go on there in scores and sort the companies by by what type of company, like food and grocery or food and restaurant, telecommunications, travel, and you can sort them based on their score, overall score, or you can sort them based on the score that matters the most to you. Is it abortion? Is it Second Amendment rights? Is it First Amendment rights? Is it environmental issues? You can sort by that. So it's a great tool. I use it all the time. I'm probably going to become a paying member at some point, because then once you're a paying member, you can actually see the information that goes into the scores for various companies and say, okay, why is it that Chick-fil-A is scored really low on abortion issues? That would be very interesting to know. Yeah. And they're adding more businesses all the time, so I'm always going on there and look it up. Yeah. Oh, anything else you wanted to go over or add before
Well,
I think this is one of our longest,
I know.
almost longest nights.
There is one thing that I thought I would talk about a little bit. I probably won't talk about this on our radio show because it's something that's probably too controversial for the radio show.
Yeah, we got to be careful of the FCC.
I know. But on the news a lot here lately, they've been talking about the attack on women's sports.
Yes.
And being as in case some people don't know that I've been involved with the gay community for quite some many years, and that's why I'm not going to talk about that on the radio because I just don't want to announce that. But
and I respect that, by the way. I have to interject.
Yeah.
And for anyone who's followed along with us and sees us, obviously, I count as a woman of color. Rebecca has a certain background with the gay community.
Yeah.
We don't like to use that as part of our politics or platform.
We don't want to make it about us.
And one thing I've always respected about you, Rebecca, is you've never used that potential victimhood culture that you fall into. You've never used that as a part of your platform. In fact, actually once, and I think I told you about it a while back on that video of yours that went viral, Communism in New Mexico.
Yeah.
You got a lot of hate from that video. And there were some people who went ahead and per Facebook guidelines, they've outrageously violated Facebook guidelines along the gay trans subject. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to let that slide. No. And I reported them and got those comments deleted because it was bad. It was very obvious.
Yeah, and I have like you said, I have never ever used that victim card nonsense. No. Okay, no. So what I want to comment on this thing with the women's sports. Okay, one thing I do know about the whole. Okay, for starters, it's terminology. You know, just like I'm always talking about how I get so tired of Democrats being called the Democratic Party. Okay, nothing democratic about it. Okay, same thing with the terminology used. Just like when they the whole debate when Trump was in office about transgender people in the military. Okay, so often people will take the term transgender and misinterpret what that is too. Okay, I like to break words down as to what they mean. Trans means transitioning. Yeah. Okay, so
and as a root word, it actually means across.
Yeah. So if somebody is not transitioning from one thing to the other thing, they're not trans.
Yeah, it doesn't count.
It doesn't count. So if they have already done the transition and they've transitioned to the other thing, then they should no longer be considered trans. Okay? So one thing I can tell you that I know about the whole trans thing, okay, and it relates to this whole controversy over the women's sports. I completely agree. If somebody is actually trans, they have no place competing in women's sports. Okay? That gives them an unfair advantage because, okay, here's the thing. Testosterone builds muscle and it builds strength. Okay? So if someone is a male and they're just saying, well, I feel like a female, so I'm going to compete with the females. Sorry, that is unfair. That's essentially someone that it has an unfair advantage. They should not be allowed to compete. Now, on the other hand, if they have actually transitioned and they are no longer trans, it could be a good point of debate that they no longer have that advantage because You take the testosterone away, which is what builds the muscle and gives the extra strength. Take that away, that extra strength doesn't exist anymore.
Well, and see, this is where the discussion actually needs to happen. So I was
It does.
listening to, I forget the name of the doctor. I think he was on Dave Rubin's show last year or year before last. And he was actually talking about the whole trans thing with the effect of hormones. And actually, men's bodies biologically do have estrogen in them.
Yeah.
But he was saying that it's not enough that you're blocking testosterone and promoting estrogen in a man's body because men's bodies react to hormones differently than women's. So by pumping estrogen into a man, you're not actually making him weaker. In fact, he compared it to, it was tantamount to steroids.
Mm-hmm.
That men can actually get strengthened by having estrogen replacing testosterone. It was a very weird phenomenon, but he's like, no, this is actually proven medically that men's bodies react very differently to like estrogen, progesterone, etc. Things that in women's bodies, make not just make them feel more feminine, but also ready their bodies for like childbearing, etc. Well, men don't have the childbearing equipment or apparatus. So just because you're taking testosterone away or suppressing it, yeah, that will to some extent make them weaker. But just because you're giving them or promoting estrogen development doesn't mean you're making them weaker either. And it was a very interesting conversation because I had never thought of it that way. I had assumed, like many people do, oh, testosterone means stronger, estrogen means weaker. And I believe this doctor was in a specialized field surrounding hormones, human hormone field.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's not as cut and dry as people think it is. And that men, regardless, even if they've transitioned, he said there needs to be discussion, especially in the medical fields, about what it means for both male and female trans. Because obviously on the female side, if you pump more testosterone into women, yeah, they do bulk up and get stronger. However, they still don't quite get as strong as men, which
No,
is why
no.
you don't hear women who've transitioned to being a man complaining about being allowed into men's wrestling and sports. Okay, well,
Yeah,
occasionally they do,
I've
but for
interacted
the
with
most
both.
part, they're not clamoring for that.
Right. I've interacted with both types,
Mhm.
and you're right there. That is something I have noticed.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they bulk up some. They grow hair on their bodies and things like that. They acquire those what are considered secondary characteristics.
Right.
And so, yeah, but you're right that it is something that should have some discussion. And a lot of people, I hear them talking about this whole thing, and they're just making it all. They're putting it all in one just broad brush. It's like,
They're women too, and they
yeah,
deserve the right to. So I'm like, they deserve what? Whoa, whoa, whoa! They deserve the right to beat your daughters, our
yeah,
daughters, on the field
as
because
hard as women have fought over the years to establish their own place in
yeah.
sports, and this is ruining it. And
What
I don't
happened to
know why.
female spaces?
I don't know why. I don't know why that people are not outraged at Joe Biden over this,
Mm-hmm.
and why these women's groups, the Now groups and things like that, aren't coming out and saying and being outraged. It's like you're seeing the destruction of women's
Yeah.
sports.
Yeah. What happened to female spaces?
Yeah,
What happened to, female fem empowerment? No, I see this whole thing. And granted, if you're a man who wants to transition to a woman, okay, good luck to you. Um, I don't agree. I may not agree with it. I may not think that that's best for you, but it ain't my life. Go
yeah,
ahead. However, that is an awful lot like what is it they always accuse us of? Cultural appropriation. That feels like gender appropriation. It feels like a man intruding into women's space, especially, like you said, if they aren't trans anything. If
Right.
they aren't transitioning anything, if they're just saying, "I feel like a girl," and they put their
Right.
hair in pigtails and
Because
are starting
that's
to
the
wear a
problem
bikini.
with this whole thing that's going on. It leaves it wide open for that to be the
Yes.
case. And
Yes.
that's why people should be having this discussion. It's like, well, what do you mean? What's this terminology mean? Why don't you
Right.
tell me what exactly what are we defining here as okay and not okay? And they're not. They're just opening the whole thing up. It's like, oh, anything goes. As long as you claim to be something, then then we'll go with that.
There needs to be clarification of language
Yeah, there does.
and terms in any legal document. The first thing after maybe a summary and the title is terms,
Yeah,
definitions. What whenever this is referred to, this is what it means. Co-sponsor means this, sponsor means this, defendant means that, such and such refers to this. So there needs to be a definition of terms. But the left, of course, has done their usual voodoo and said, "Oh, you can't talk about this, or
that's
you're
right.
transphobic."
Phobic or you're racist or oh my God. Just like the same thing with the debate over the military. Okay,
Mhm.
if somebody is transitioning, okay, and they're going through all this medical stuff, they are not fit for combat. They
No.
are not deployable. Okay, so therefore they have no business being in the military. Now, after you've transitioned and got to where you're going to be, fine. It's
And
like,
restabilized. You would
yeah,
not send someone into the military who is in the middle of many different complex treatments for eye surgery.
yeah,
They would not be admissible into the military if they're going through a bunch of different LASIK treatments. They just
yeah,
wouldn't. They would not be admissible to the military if they're going through various thyroid therapies, which
yeah,
also, by the way, involves hormones in some cases.
yeah,
So, why would we make an exception for gender transitioning, which, by the way, is incredibly hard on the body,
yeah.
involves multiple treatments, is really extensive. It's not an overnight thing.
It's not something where you can
And
be
also,
serving in the military. I'm sorry, it's not.
it comes, yeah, it's incredibly distracting, and it comes with behavioral health side effects,
Hmm.
at the very least, while you're in the middle of transitioning.
Yeah,
There is, oh gosh, what's her name? This YouTuber who's transitioned, and she's against kids being given hormone blockers and hormone therapy.
I think that's
She's
incredibly
transfers.
wrong. Kids are
Yeah,
often when they're young, they're confused about a lot of things. To
yeah,
push them in a direction like that,
that's
to
child abuse.
possibly make them make the biggest mistake of their entire life
Right.
and destroy their life. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
well,
that is
I
wrong.
Blair, that's her name.
Yeah,
Blair something. She's been on Louder with Crowder, and she's friends with all kinds of people across political spectrums and gender spectrums. And yeah, she's against, she's like, look, transitioning isn't for everyone. And also, she's even warned, she's like, it doesn't necessarily make you happy.
hmm,
She's like, you can't depend on transitioning to make you happy. She has a lot of great stuff. That is, thank you, David. Blair
Blair
White.
White.
Yes, that's her. I love her
Well, I
stuff.
have,
I love
I've
listening to
seen numerous people come out and talk about that they went through that and saying, I rushed into it and
her.
oh, I'm
Mhm.
so sorry and I made the biggest
Yeah,
mistake in my entire life.
First one I ever met.
yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. So it's something that like once you have done it and you get to
You can't
like,
really
you
undo. I mean,
can't go
there are
back.
reversals, but you can't really undo all the effects.
No, not at all.
It's rough.
So what they're doing to kids and trying to influence them and confuse them at a young age is just, it's horrible. It is child abuse.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Unfortunately. Oh yeah, by the way, our appeal was rejected on our video from last week. Of course, they didn't give us a reason.
Of course not.
Of course not. They just said, nope, appeal rejected, medical misinformation, and
Medical, but they don't tell you
yeah.
what
Well,
misinformation is.
they have a link, and it just leads to COVID-19 medical misinformation. YouTube doesn't allow content about COVID-19 that poses a serious risk of egregious harm, such as contradicts local health authorities or the World Health Organization's medical information. Oh, you mean their lies?
Yeah.
Treatment, prevention, diagnostic, transmission, social distancing, and self-isolation, the existence of COVID-19. That's probably the one they took issue with, as we pointed out that it might not exist. And here's the funny thing:
we're
we
not
didn't
saying
even
definitively.
claim.
We're simply presenting what the evidence that we've seen.
We didn't claim that COVID-19 didn't exist.
Yeah.
We cited a study that actually looked at existing information and was found unconclusive. And we didn't even come to a conclusion about it. In fact, we even reaffirmed, yeah, I've had it. I know the virus itself exists because I've had it.
I had it too.
Duh. It exists, obviously. Yeah. So it's like, well, if this happens again, your channel will get a community guidelines strike and you won't be able to do things like upload, post, or live stream for 1 week. Oh, really? Okay, well, let's see what they do with this post,
I'm sure they'll have some. I mean, we've talked about so much. There's got to be something that we've talked about that they're going to have a problem with.
Oh, I'm sure, but I almost don't care. I mean, it's YouTube. Rumble, it's up on Rumble. They don't care. They'll monetize it. I don't even ask YouTube to monetize anything. I don't bother. Rumble, they'll monetize it. Yeah. They're cool. They're chill. Again, that parallel economies thing. In fact, someone once asked me, well, why do you bother with YouTube anyway? It's kind of an experiment. I have stuff up on YouTube. I have stuff up on Rumble. And I just kind of, every once in a while go through the content analysis and I compare. And by the way, we get views. We still get views on YouTube. And here's what's interesting. We got more views on the video from last week before it was removed than the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 videos that we've uploaded on YouTube. Wonder if that has something to do with it too.
You think?
Yeah, quite possibly.
It's like, oh, people are listening to them, so we got to block them.
Right, something like that. It's not even that we get a ton of views on YouTube, but views are views.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'll still throw up this video tonight on both Rumble and our YouTube account. Rumble's the only one that I really advertise and push, though. And hey, if you guys are listening to us all on YouTube, screw YouTube. You might want to just hop on over to our Rumble account. It's also Liberty Ladies Unite.
Just call it Screw Tube.
Yeah, screw tube. They have a way of screwing people that don't get on board with the narrative. Yeah, them and their community guidelines. Well, we'll see. We'll see how much longer Twitter's going to be around for. They're kind of gasping right now.
Well,
as the president says, Twitter's boring without him. It really is.
Oh yeah. Well, he had like over 90 million followers, and I think they probably kicked all of those followers out. So it's like,
oh yeah,
including me. So the majority, a large amount of the people that were on their platform are gone.
Yep. It's like, yep, okay, we're done. There's not as much tweeting going on.
I mean, face it, Trump put Twitter on the map.
He really did.
Before Trump.
It was big. It was big as it was. And he had a lot of followers before he was president. But after he started running for president, oh my goodness. Yeah. It got ridiculous. So yeah, several people are like, oh, he needs to join Parler or Gab. I really wish he would join Gab, but Jared Kushner's kind of blocking him on that one, and I don't think the Kushners are really doing him any favors right now.
Yeah,
but that's my own opinion. But we'll see. Well, I've got a sleeping baby here that I need to put up in his crib. So wave hi, sleepy baby. Wave hi. Yeah. He's so asleep. He's out.
I got a sleepy baby too. See.
Oh yeah, the cats. Yeah, y'all can't see them, but I've got some cats who are like, yes. Well, thank you everybody, our 4 listeners, David for hanging on with us. Oh yes. Yes, David's parting shot here, these idiots.
Yeah.
Good for you, David. Good for you,
David.
Yes. Thank you so much to our diehard listeners out there. I know there's only a few of you, but hey, we'll be here as long as you're watching and listening
That's right.
to us.
You know, this is kind of like our run up to our Saturday radio show, and it's like
we get to hash out stuff.
Yeah. And so then by the time our radio show comes out, and by the way, if you didn't listen to our radio show last week, we started the Constitution, and we're going to be continuing with that. And so, yeah, we're going to be working on Article 1 starting this Saturday, and it's going to be very interesting. I'm sure we'll have some very good discussion about that. And I've already started looking it over and highlighting some things, and I'm thinking, oh, yeah, we're going to have some good discussions about this.
Oh, yes. Well, we already got it off to a great start with the preamble last Saturday, and some of our callers who did make it in. We had some great conversations. I really enjoyed the conversation on Constitution versus Charter. Oh yeah. And unbeknownst to me, someone I know was listening, going, oh, "Come on, call him out. You got to push back. It's not just a charter. It's not." And they're like, "Okay, good. She brought it up." Oh, I'm like, "Wow, okay. I had no idea. I had people counting on me on that one."
Well, you know, that was just ripe for Show Killer to call in and talk.
No,
about
that was Charter Dave.
Oh, Charter Dave, that's right.
Charter Dave. Yeah,
so we're
there's
just
David
call him Charter
Chokila,
Dave from now on.
and then there's Charter Dave. He's the one who's always after us to secede from the Union.
Right.
Technically, Charter. Yeah. And my position is, well, I agree that we have the right to secede from the Union, but not because it's a charter, but because the Constitution lays a foundational groundwork for people first, then the state, then the federal.
Right.
But yeah, that's something I like to get into the minutia on. I understand some people are like, you lost me at charter.
And you know what? I have a feeling as we go through the Constitution, we're going to hear from him even more.
Oh yeah. I'm sure that we will. Yeah, I'm sure that we will. He'll try convincing us that it's a charter. I'm like, hey, I don't disagree with you, dude. I don't disagree that there are elements of charter in this. Still don't, but you need to know our founding fathers called it a constitution for a reason.
Yeah.
And we will be following up on that and digging deeper into it, and I'm looking forward to it.
So David, have you been listening to our radio show on Saturday?
He says, no, he says we need a convention of states.
Yeah.
Well, I agree. It's not likely to happen anytime soon.
Really dangerous.
Yeah, it's not likely to happen anytime soon. However, if there is a red wave in the next couple of years, we might get more states signing on. New Mexico almost signed on under Susana Martinez, but we didn't have enough support in the House for it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We have people still trying. Again, 30 front battle. We got to have people willing to fight on any front that they can. And we got to keep the pressure up and keep the pressure on. David says he listens when he can. Thank you, David. Appreciate it.
You. Hey, and David, if you haven't already signed up for it, you should really, or if you don't have sign up for rockettalk.chat. It's really a great deal. It's only $5 a month, and
you can get your own email address.
You get so much
that they can't cancel. Yes,
exactly.
Also, if you guys have the app, if you go to like abq.fm or rockoftalk.com, you can download the app, and if you have the app, you can actually watch us rerun
Yeah.
TV on. I think he says TV Rock of Talk TV on demand is the section.
I'll tell you
It's
here.
under.
Basically, when you're looking at the app, up in the upper left corner, there's like 3 lines. If you click on that, then you'll notice there'll be a selection that says Rock of Talk TV on demand.
Yes, that's the one.
And if you click on that and you go down the list, it shows all the shows that are on the station. You'll find
including us.
Yeah. You'll see Liberty Ladies Unite on there. And so sometimes it takes a little bit of time for our shows to get uploaded, but be patient. Right now, the one that's on there is from the 13th, and it's a really good one, by the way, if you haven't seen the one from the 13th. But yeah, so anyway, so I would suggest that.
Yeah, so you can look us up on there. And then, of course, our Rumble account, ScrewTube. If you must, go on ScrewTube and, maybe complain to them if you see that they deleted one of our videos.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, we've got the Rumble account. That's the main one. And
but what the neat thing about the radio show is, like, we hash things out here on our Monday night webcast, but on our radio show, I write these really great monologues. I do a monologue at the beginning of the show. I'm having a great time writing those, and I do a lot of
research. Callers.
Yeah,
we get callers in, and we get to sometimes our anti-fans call in as well.
And so I've been having fun with the monologues. I just really look forward to coming up with new ideas every week. And now we're really digging into the Constitution, which I think is going to be very educational for all of us, including me. So, yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah, best way to learn something is to go do it yourself, and that's what we're doing. And we're still bringing up Saul Alinsky's Rule for Radicals. We still refer to those. And it's so funny listening to Bongino. He refers to them as well. In fact, his CPAC, I don't know if you saw his CPAC speech, he referred to them in there also.
Nice. I didn't get the speech. I couldn't find it anywhere either.
It was on, I think, One America News Network.
Okay.
OAN. Yeah, OAN. Yeah, you should be able to find it on their website. He might also have it up on his website, bongino.com, as well.
Okay.
By now. I know everyone was just waiting for Trump to speak. And I got home in time from shopping to actually Alex Jones was playing clips of it on Sunday.
Yeah. Oh, it's an awesome
on his radio show.
Really, really good.
So I was listening to clips, and I got home and I texted John. I'm like, Trump's on, President Trump is on. So we had that on the whole evening. And man, it was just, so as Sebastian Gorka said afterwards in the Fox commentary, or no, Newsmax commentary, he said, as his wife put it, wow, it's great to have him back.
It is. It is. I miss hearing it.
We've been without Trump for so long.
Yeah, I know. I was having Trump withdrawal.
Yeah. Yeah, Trump withdrawal. So was the media. That's why they couldn't shut up about him. Oh, man. And we could go on so much. There's so much more to go on. But, we'll save some for Saturday. We are almost at 3 hours now. I think that's the longest.
Oh, my God. 2 hours, 47.
Well, so some people are like, oh, do you ever have trouble finding material? We're like, nope.
Not really.
We realize we do a 3-hour show without breaks, and Rebecca and I can talk for hours.
I know. And we're currently not doing any commercials. So, I mean, it's like we're just going and going. It's not like a normal radio. It's not like a normal 3-hour radio show where half of it is commercials. It's like, no, we're like 3 hours continuous.
And it's honestly, it's a great opportunity. I don't really know of any other talk show hosts right now who just have 3 straight hours to just
we're the
go.
only ones.
Yeah, it's awesome. So yeah, I mean, not that I'm against eventually having sponsors, and if you all know of sponsors and businesses who would love to sponsor us on the station and have a commercial, oh yeah, let us know. Email us. But right now we're enjoying the free and just open time.
Yeah, true.
It's unique.
I know.
Well, we gotta go. So you all stay free
That's
and
right.
do
And
what it
remember,
takes to stay free.
resistance is not futile.
That's
Ever.
right. That's right. So you all have a good night, New Mexico.